Well, hello there. Happy Labor Day to all of our laborers out there. To all you bedbound bitches out there, I got nothing for you. Welcome to the transparency. Again, thank you to all of our subscribers, members, lurkers, and moderators for all of your hard work. We appreciate you in this country, this great country, the United States of America. So, cheers. Um, If you are a stay at home mom or a stay at home dad, trust me, that's a job. Be proud of it. Make your lovely significant other take you out and do something. Celebrate you. Let's rock and roll. Oh, yes, the goal. Why be so nosy? How you doing? Member for 30 months. That's impressive. Um, whoop, whoop. Yeah. 30 months. Love it. What's up, Willie? How you doing there, love child? Cheers. Um, Again, hope you guys have had a great weekend. I sure have had one of the best weekends ever. I mean, the Buckeyes just you were down at the shoe, checking on the Ohio State Buckeyes taking on the Texas Longhorns. We took down the number one team in the country. That's just what we do. Thank you so much, there, Amanda. Love it. Appreciate you so much. Back at ya, Mary. Mary's been a member for 22 months. Good morning. So, praise. All right. Oh, Boston. I love seeing your bubbly ass in here. What you doing? What you doing right now, girl? Are you just waking up? Are you about to enjoy your day? Or are you working? If you're working at the fish market, I want some fish. I cooked some bomb ass ribs yesterday. Yeah. P Foxes, just because everybody else is doing it. Hell yeah, we are those people. What's up, P Fox? Member for 24 months. Shake it. Shake it. Naples, Florida. How hot is it there right now? I wish it was a little bit hotter here. I'm not going to lie. No work? I'll play? Member for 47 months. Top that shit, bitches. Boston. Boston's one of the best humans I've ever known. Yes. Her sons rock too. They have her heart of gold. How are the boys? Yeah. My fucking died. Season is over already. Well, good thing with the playoffs, it's not over. This new system we got going on here, you'll be fine. Okay, we're in for a marathon. It's gonna be a little different of a marathon though. It's like literally gonna go and go, but when I need to take my breaks, I'm gonna go to an old show of mine and press play, and so you guys can see some of it. Freckle Gemini, trying to get all the mods up in this piece. Everybody's a mod that's in this piece today. What's up, Christine? From Oz became a member. Thank you so much, and welcome to membership land, where anything goes, except being a hoe. Goes and goes and goes. Oh boy, let me stretch. All right, so today I have the Cavs 2016 Finals mug. Okay, and then we have the Sunshine. You are my sunshine mug. True story. A 60-year-old woman got me this, and then professed her love to me. I think she was 60. Maybe she was like 67. Actually, I don't even know. And I think she wanted to have my baby, but she definitely wanted to get married. And I told her I'm sorry that she thought that was an option. If you know, you know. Boss, did you like that? Just ripping it out this morning. Oh. So those are some of the mugs I have out here today. Also, what you're looking at is Hector is bringing in to the stage. You guys, I'm not kidding. 67 years old. She was flailing around in a whirlpool in a hotel, slapping towels around. I woke up to that shit. Thought she was my friend. Didn't realize she wanted to like hanky panky. I say, get me the fuck out of Denver right now. Get me the hell out of this fucking state. That's the Atlanta I know. You guys. It's the truth. This shit is wild. If you can go back and find any of those videos, um, yeah, it's all the truth. Take every compliment, right? Oh yeah, yeah. Slapping towels, literally. The fucking hotel room was a mess. You'd have thought someone got murdered in that motherfucker. Murdered. Boston, I'm so glad that you're here today. You're making me smile. All you gotta do is just show up. Shit, bitch, just pop into every live. I'm like, oh, Boston. Nina G. Nina, that is a bad luck name over here. There was another broad named Gina. Or Nina, rather. Fuck, I think there's a broad named Gina, too. Another broad named Nina. Fucking batshit crazy, too. So let's hope that you're not like her. Oh, you guys are in for a trip today. Um, no joke. Yeah. These are facts. Okay. Oh, not that Nina used to be my name. Oh, not that Nina used to be your name. Oh, you need to go back to that. That's better. Oh, shit. Okay. Hopefully you guys have had some time to like catch up. I was pumping out like literally, I don't know, 15 to 17-hour days. Because when I'm not live, I actually have to research the shit. Um, you know, which takes time. So yesterday I was actually researching more stuff because I wanted to bring you guys some interesting facts. I'm a numbers person, as you guys know. So check out this. This is we're gonna be here for a while. Did you guys know it's a fact that Officer Payne, who was just an officer back then, he became the lead detective, but he only wrote five reports before the arrest of Brian Koberger. Five reports. Your lead detective investigator on this case, as far as the MPD law enforcement division is concerned, 5 reports. He wrote 5, like wrote up 5. Like you're supposed to write up a report after your tasks that you do. Okay, and it's best practice to write them, I don't know, sometime just relatively right after it happens. I mean, they don't say you have to write that same day. Okay. But then there's different reasons why you would maybe not write it up, as if like I'm following up with that person, let's say the next day, or I mean, there's like reasons for it, right? So, also, who was not writing up reports was Darren Gilbertson, the other lead detective, and he was with the ISP. Okay, so I've been working on, because I'm gonna bring to you guys one of my. I've been working on this for like, I don't know, since they said we're not going to have a trial. I've been working on a Payne mock of like a cross examination of Payne based on everything that has happened since the beginning of the case. Stuff that Ann Taylor did with the different. There was a couple hearings where Payne was a witness. Okay, so that testimony counts. It's not like you can just say whatever you want in those. Those can be used against you. So if you say something different, they can be used for impeachment material. So what I've been working on here is, this is my Payne questions for cross-examination. And so I've been putting this together over the past, I mean, like I said, when they made a plea deal and it was all finalized. And I waited until the point of sentencing, okay, to start on it, because I was like, okay, well, maybe Brian's going to like pull back or something like that. But he doesn't seem like much of a pull-out guy because he never gets in. Yeah, it's going to be that kind of day today. So just want to throw you guys out before we get started, some of these questions that I have. Um, when I was running my trivia business, which I'm restarting back up, COVID wrecked all of the shit that was going on, like bars, restaurants, resorts, and stuff like that. But teams get to pick their name, and some of the team names, like I just absolutely loved. Like I was like, dude, that's creative as fuck. Like I loved it. And one of my favorite team names ended up being some kid that ended up marrying my cousin. They had dated back in high school, right? I didn't know though because he had changed his appearance so much. I didn't even know that it was him. So he comes into my bar, and the same bar I ended up buying that I actually did trivia at back in the day. Um, and they had like these initials, and the initials were, I guess, gotta tell you the story because it goes hand in hand with what we're about to talk about. Um, PBV, and for the longest time, like I was like thought it was like their initials, like Peter, Brett, Victoria, something like that. It was two guys always playing with a girl. And so I just always figured it was their names. Okay. PBV. Um, and one day I was like, hey, what does you guys have always played under the same name, PBV. I was like, what does that stand for? You know? And they're like, guess. And I'm like, well, I thought it was your guys' names, but then I obviously learned their names over time. And I was like, that can't be it. So I was like, what is it? And and they said, no, like literally we'll give you $100 if you can guess. And I'm like, PBV. PBV. Okay. So what do you guys think that would mean? I mean, I didn't they said I could guess for the whole time. Yeah, it's not peanut butter vibes, but they said I can guess the whole time during one of the nights of trivia. And if I was to get it right, they'd give me $100 as a tip. Needless to say, I didn't get it, okay? Because you guys ready? Period, blood, vampires. I said, are you guys insane? I said, what? I said, get out of here. I said, who came up with this team name? Okay. And then so the reason I want to bring this up is because you were talking about the Vampire Diaries, okay? But the life of me was like, God, I wish I had never asked, because then every week when that venue would go and I'd be there, I'm just like, oh God, PBBs, here we go. Like, they're like, oh, now that you know it, you got to say it. I'm like, I am not saying this on the mic over and over. Okay, people? So, period, blood, vampires. That's what it was. But one of my other favorite team names was My Couch Pulls Out, But I Don't. And then Chris Hansen is a cock block. And like literally I could go back in time and tell you all the team names that I like absolutely thought were like just gold. But PBV comes to mind of just like, wow, how the fuck do you ever think? Like that's what I'm gonna name my trivia team name out at dinner with families. But Chris Hansen is a cock block, top 5 all time. Like this is before like people knew that I like true crime and all about it. And when this team came up and they're like, Chris Hansen's a cock block, I'm like, holy shit. Who loves Chris Hansen over here? So, how about, have you guys ever heard of the Cleveland Steamers? I want you guys to look up what that is if you don't know what that is. The Cleveland Steamers. What's a Cleveland Steamer? Look that up. Let me know. Having the trivia host announce that Team Mental Idiot is still this one. There you go. Yeah, well, these are, I got to learn all about people's, look at that. Oh, there's Murky. Murky, how you feeling? Good, good, good. Anyways, when people think of team names and they have to make them up, it's just like everybody goes to something, nasty. Nasty, I swear. So all those sex ed middle school, they were, weren't they? How you doing there, Mac Dickles? How you doing there? Good to see ya. Welcome to the marathon. Yeah, merkin. Go look up what a merkin is. It's a pubic wig. I'll save you the time. Merkin. American merkins. All right. So what you guys are looking at here, Hector. So remember I told you guys, I was like, hey, let's go back to talk about Jack D here. Because Maury said that he downloaded his phone and he was successful in downloading it. And I'm like, wait a second. Why would you download his phone? Meaning that he used Cellbrite and he used Axiom, and he said that there was no issues. And so he does it on November 13th, and he's able to return the phone back to Jack D like really quickly. Okay, and that's on November 13th, the day of the murders. Okay, Jack D gets brought back to the station, which I'm actually going to show you guys a little bit of a timeline that I've been working on as well. Where's my stuff ahead? Yeah. We'll get it. Don't you fret yourself. Oh yeah, here we go. We're going to talk about this timeline here. We're going to get to it. I knew it was somewhere that I wanted. Okay. So these are facts here. Jack D goes over to the police station. Guess who he interviews with? Detective Payne. Detective Payne decides to write up that interview. As Supplemental Report 114, which was wrote after January 11th, 2023. Like, why? Why are you writing up the Jack D interview January 11th, 2023? Okay. Like, that's wild to me. That's basically, how many months later? You have all like November to December, December to January. So 2 months later, you write up this report. But then after that, Jack D starts to get interviewed by Idaho State Police Detective Mike Van Leuven. And they take his phone on the 15th or 17th. And then they download it again. But here on this time, they have problems with it. Okay. And they need to pass it around. And then it finally gets into the hands of one of the guys that says, yeah, I can do it. And then he downloads it. But guess what they also did when they downloaded this phone? They also took prints, or I should say, they took swabs of his phone for skin cells. Okay. And these swabs of his phone get literally lost to the point of they get put in the mail and mailed to the Moscow Police Department in like February of 2023. And it's mailed to Payne, but I'm sorry, it's mailed to Maury. Payne gives the box to Maury. Maury then 2 weeks later says, oh, this isn't for me because this isn't digital stuff. I think this is for you. Then Payne looks back at it and he's like, oh, these were swabs taken from Jack D's phone. Okay, I think I'll just walk them down to the evidence room and put them into evidence. So my marathon's going to kick off with some questions that I have here. It's nowhere near done. But if I was to personally cross-examine Payne with no experience, this is how I would start. Okay, so Officer Payne, this was your first homicide investigation as a lead detective, is that right? Okay. What type of cases had you worked prior to this case? Like what have you done? And then, obviously he's going to answer. Detective Payne, at the time that you were working this case here, November 13th, you were just what? Officer Corporal Payne? And you wrote the probable cause affidavit in connection with this case. And you did that with the help and knowledge of others. Is that right? You also stated that you had your own training and experience. Is that right? And then that's where you would go through the list of when he was referring to his own training and experience, to say, okay, well, this is the list that we obtained. Can I approach? I would show Payne his training and experience up to that, as many hours as that he accumulated at that point in the different categories. Is that right? So, Officer Payne, you worked night and day on this case from November 13th, 2022. Is that right? And you performed a lot of tasks in connection with this case. Is that right? And one of those tasks, your training experience, one of those things would be that you're trained to write reports. Is that right? And do you know how many reports you probably authored in connection with this case? Not in your career, but just with this case. How many reports did you author? Can you throw out a figure? Okay, how many reports do you think that you authored in this case prior to the arrest of my client? Okay. Officer Payne, are you aware that your first report wasn't authored until December 4th of 2022? So December 4th of 2022. And it was at 10 a.m. Are you aware of that? Your Honor, may I approach? And I would approach with report 51. To the best of my knowledge, I don't recall. There we go. There's his answers. You're gonna have to pull it out of him, okay? Is that right? You're gonna get nice and close here. Okay. Would you quarrel with me if I told you this was your first report? Okay. Okay. Do you recall what it was for? Do you want to take a look at that? Sure. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. It was for this was for my walkthrough that I performed when I was at the crime scene. Okay. And so your first report is when you responded to the scene, correct? That's correct. Okay, but was that your first task assigned to you? I'm not. I can't recall. Okay. Wasn't interviewing people at the Moscow Police Department your first task? Oh, yes, 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 yes. Oh, we're laying some foundation here, honey. It's definitely relevant. This is foundational questions. Okay, so interviewing people at Moscow Police Department was what you were tasked with first. Is that correct? Mm-hmm, that is correct. Okay. Now, is there any reason that your interview with one of the victim's ex-boyfriends was not written in a report until months later? Isn't it true that he was one of your main suspects? Is that right? Okay. And were you also part of interviewing the surviving roommates, the witnesses, the surviving roommates, and who were actually at the house when you were at the MPD? And do you know when you had those reports, when those reports were written up, any of the interviews? You also, I think, didn't you interview Emily Allant? Okay. And that happened on November 13th, right, at the station. That was one of your first tasks, right? Mm-hmm. That's correct. Mm-hmm. And do you recall when you authored those reports? Okay. It was months later, correct? Okay. After the arrest of my client, correct? Okay. Who called you in to report to Moscow Police Department that day? Were you called by Tyson Barrett? Does that ring a bell? Tyson Barrett? Okay. And when you arrived to MPD on 11/13/2022, who did you get briefed from? Was there anybody fill you in on anything? You were just told, hey, you want to start interviewing these people and you have no background on what you're going to be interviewing them about? Okay. Now, isn't it true that you've started to begin your interviews about 1:45 in the afternoon? And they went till about, I don't know, 3:30ish, right before 4 o'clock. Okay. And now when you arrived then, I'm sorry, prior to going to 1122 King Road, can you also tell the jury what you were told? What was your understanding? Okay. And now isn't it true that you were going to go to 1122 King Road to actually perform scene security? Isn't that correct? Well, here if you want to take a look at your report. At approximately 4, Sergeant Blaker and I responded to King Road to assist with scene security. Is that correct? Okay. Thank you. Okay. Detective Payne, back then, if you were going there to report for scene security, why would you have entered the crime scene? Is that something that you were been trained to do if you were going there for scene security, that an officer who was a first responder would walk you through a scene and tell you about it if you're just there for scene security? You weren't a detective at the time, correct? And who walked you through? Officer Smith. Was he a detective at the time? No. Okay. Now, did you have any body-worn camera on you when you went through? Objection leading questions. This is cross-examination, and you are allowed to lead. I'm so sorry that you don't understand this, but welcome to the channel. Learn. I recommend we learn. You are definitely allowed to lead on cross-examination. That's the glorious part of cross-examination. That's why Michael Proctor wasn't called to the stand by Hank Brennan. Well. You learn something new every day. Now, in another proceeding, you testified that you weren't the lead detective until 24 hours after the incident. Is that correct? Okay. We're going to come back to that. And so you weren't, correct? You were not labeled the lead detective until 24 hours later. And you testified to that at another proceeding, right? Mm-hmm, I did. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And so when you arrived, you said that ISP was on scene when you arrived. Do you recall that? Yeah, the team was on scene prepping to begin processing the scene. And Officer Smith, one of the initial responding officers to the incident, advised me he would walk me through the scene. Okay. And now in your training and experience, is that normally what happens? That we just take everybody that comes to the scene through it? No, that's not what we do. That's not what we're trained to do. Okay. And you didn't know that you were going to be a lead detective. You weren't a detective at that time, correct? Okay. Who was calling the shots for the first 24 hours prior to you becoming a lead detective? Okay. Now, based on your training and experience, again, is it customary for officers working the scene? So somebody like Officer Smith, who's working the scene, meaning he's there for scene security. Officer Smith's either at the front or the back, right? And he's standing there and he's making sure that nobody's coming in, right? And so is it customary then for an officer that you'd be going there to assist in scene security to then say, hey, let me walk you through the scene and let me escort you with other officers to walk the scene? Basically what I'm getting at, Detective Payne, is who told you to go through the scene? Who said when you get there, walk through the scene? Your Honor, it wasn't asked and answered because he keeps saying, I don't recall. So I'm recollecting his memory. Then he's saying yes to things. So for clarification for the jury, if you could please, who told you, who advised you to go through the scene? Next, during this walkthrough, you notice a tan leather knife sheath. Isn't that correct? Okay. And it, and as you testified in other proceedings, you had viewed other people's reports in connection with this case as lead investigator. People are coming to you and reporting to you about what they're doing, what comes of what they're doing, right? Okay. So are you aware that, or isn't it actually true that no other officer noticed the tan leather knife sheath during their initial walkthrough to the point that they did not put it in any report? Are you aware of that? Okay. Okay, and we're going to come back to this tan leather knife sheath here in a second. Now, back to your reporting. 12/4/2022, again, first date there, correct? That you wrote up a report. Your second report, it actually came the same day, right? It is not objection, cause for speculation. If you have personal knowledge of something, it's not speculation, okay? And so if you were to say that, I would say, Your Honor, if he has personal knowledge, so if you would like me to reword that for personal knowledge, I can definitely do that. And now, isn't it true that everything comes down to speculation when you're making decisions in an investigation for a homicide? You're, hey, what should we do next? It's like, are you following your gut? Are you following the responses of what's going on? How do you know what to do next? How are you deciding what's pertinent and what's not? Detective Payne. People are bringing you information. Isn't that correct? And from what you're ascertaining from that information, you're then saying, okay, we should go and do this. Correct? Yeah. Okay. So going back to the second day, or I'm sorry, your second report on 12/4. Do you know what that report was for? The second one? You probably have done so many you can't recall, right? Okay. Well, it would actually be right there in order. It's report 52. Okay. Does that recollect your memory there? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what was that for? Yep. That was for when I drove the MPD school car. Mm-hmm. I recall this. Yep. Okay. And would you say that that was written just an hour later from the one report? That's what it looks like here. 10:35, it was entered in, and then 11:25, 50 minutes later, this one was entered in, right? Yep. That is what it looks like to me. Okay, great. All right, let's hang tight with that for you. But this would also be something that you did about 2 weeks prior to writing this report. So it says that approximately, on 11/24. Okay, I took the MPD school car. And you wrote on 12/4, right? So would you say 2 weeks? That's right. Okay. Now, why did you actually go and perform this task right here? Because of what? What led you to say, hey, I'm going to take this MPD school car, the silver Ford Fusion, and drive the route of the suspect vehicle? And isn't it true on this day, whatever he would say, is it true on this day when you were doing these drives, you actually ended up going over to 1122 King Road and you had a talk with Officer Tisdale? Is that correct? Yes, that's correct. And you wrote in your report that you found a glove on the pavement of the parking lot of 1122 King Road. Is that correct? Okay. What is the item number of the glove that you found? Yep, item number 266. And can you explain to the jury what that means? Well, when we put and collect evidence, and then we put it in to our evidence storage lockers, it's part of our chain of custody. So we're documenting when we bring in an item, and all the items receive an item number. Okay, perfect. And so you found this glove on 11/24. Is that correct? And you also said that the glove was a Polar Penguin brand glove, and it was just one glove. Is that correct? And I want to point something out. You said in your report that you took the trial runs, like the car runs, and they were later collected and added to the FBI video files for the case. Is that correct? Okay. Anywhere on your report do you say what the results were of your trial runs? Were you timing something? Okay. Isn't it true that this report was also written because of a witness by the name of Molly McMichael that you interviewed? Yes. Now, you didn't write up Molly McMichael's interview yet, though, did you? You interviewed her on the day before of 11/24, right? You interviewed her on 11/23, correct? So a couple tasks so far. I said the Jack D interview, it's not in as a written report yet, correct? The Emily Allant interview, that's not written up yet, correct? And now an interview with Molly McMichael, that's not written up yet, correct? Okay. Now, during the course of this investigation, since you were the lead investigator, you task, like you assign people to go do a task. Are you aware? Did you assign Captain Dollinger to make a trip to the Idaho State Police lab to drop off some evidence on November 14th or on November 18th? How about would it help if I recollected your memory by showing you? A report. Let's see. Okay. Were you aware of this duty that you tasked Dollinger with? If you could take a look at that report. So it'd be somebody from the command center, correct? That would have been telling Dollinger to meet with the property coordinator over there at Moscow, Tim, right? And that you're going to go get these items, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you're going to receive these items and you're going to then transport them to the lab. So do you recall any of this happening? Okay. Well, it's your job to look over what people do, correct? And so I just want to make sure the jury understands. What is the number here on the left? What is that? Can you tell the jury what that is? M-2104. You see that? Item 266. That's the glove that you collected and you put into evidence at the Moscow Police Department, and you handed it to Tim. Isn't that correct? Yes, 1124, item 266. And that's what this is, correct? Item 266. So that's the evidence that you collected on 1124 that you said was in the middle of the parking lot, 25 feet, I think, away from the door, correct? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And now 22M-2104, that matches item 266, correct? 2104. Yep, 1124. Yep, that matches. Now, going back to that tan leather knife sheath, wouldn't you say it's really important to be accurate with your reporting? It's one of like the most important things you need to be accurate with is your reporting. Okay, so on November 18th, it would have been impossible for Detective Dollinger here, right? Or captain at the time. Now he's the chief. It would have been impossible for him on November 18th to have item 22M-2104 because it wasn't found yet. Is that correct? The item that you found that wasn't entered into evidence yet, correct? So we have a couple options here. Either the date of when he did this task would be wrong, right? And you guys have to like review reports and sign off on them, right? And so not only did this slip the mind of Anthony Dollinger, but also slip the mind of Roger Lanier. Is that what that would mean? That two people missed this? And so this either happened on another day, which it would have to be after November 24th, correct? Because this item didn't exist yet, right? Is it also possible that he took a different item? That a different item was transported? We don't know. Is that correct? Because now something is really off here. Like this report is not accurate, correct? Okay. And you rely on these type of reports to tell you things when you're given them, correct? Okay, so going back to on 1113, going into 1114, you were the officer that waited until about 12:15 midnight, which would be 1114 when you were at the house. You actually received items from Idaho State Police, from the crime scene team, from Jeffrey Talbot, and he handed you 56 items, and you were supposed to go and take them and store them into temporary evidence, correct? Isn't that correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. And so they don't get a tag because they aren't entered into evidence yet until the 14th, right? You're not sitting there typing up in the computer and logging all of it, correct? And this is important for chain of custody, correct? Okay. So Detective Payne, which you weren't at the time a detective, correct? Okay. So who had access to the evidence, the temporary evidence hold? Who had access to that? Because that's where the tan leather knife sheath was stored, in temporary evidence. So who had access to that? Again, this is a sample mock of how I would go about cross-examining Detective Payne. Okay. Next, Moving on. Isn't it true that multiple people had access to where you were holding in temporary evidence? Did you take pictures of where you were keeping this? Okay. Your next report would come on 12/13/2022, report 72. Do you know what that task was that you wrote up a report on? Nope, I don't know offhand, but I'm sure you will tell me. Yep, I sure will there. Let me just help you out here. Okay. There you go. Report 72. This was your third report you wrote in connection with this case. Okay. Is that the interview of Jack Decor? No. Is that the interview of Emily Allant? No. Is that the interview of Molly McMichael? No. Now, before my client was arrested, you had 2, 3, possibly 4 suspects. And I'm just going to list them off here, and you can tell me if this is correct. You referred to Jack Showalter as one of those people who's best known to you and your staff at first by Hoodie Guy. Is that correct? Okay. And then Jack Decor. Is that correct? Ex-boyfriend of Kaylee. Mm-hmm. And then a Cole, last name Beneberger, something like that, right? Is that right? Okay. Okay. So this report here that you wrote up on 12/13. Okay. Did this have to do with any tasks that were performed on 11/13? No. In fact, this was something that you did on 12/2. And it was something to do with an FBI tip. Is that correct? Can you explain to the jury what this is? Yeah, somebody had ordered a K-bar knife. Then the FBI had went to this person's house, and this person then called K-bar and said, why did the feds show up at my house, and why are you giving my number out? I don't want solicitation, things of that nature. But you noted something really important within this report, correct? Which was the FBI told you that they never mentioned anything about a sheath. Is that correct to the person? And this person knew about a sheath being left at the scene. Is that correct? So, but when you asked the FBI agents that went there to interview this person, they said, we didn't mention a sheath being left at the scene. And this person knew that a sheath was left at the scene. Is that correct? Do you have any more further contact with this person? No, I don't believe so. All right. Your fourth report, which is right before your final report, before my client was arrested. So that would be report 73. And do you recall what 73 report was about? If that can refresh your memory. It was written up on 12/13. Is that correct? Yes. Report 73. 11/23. What did I do here? Oh, okay. Yes, I know what this is about. Okay, perfect. All right. Isn't this report about something that you and Idaho State Police went and did on the morning of 11/23, which pertained to the outdoor area of Jack Showalter's apartment? And his apartment is Queen, right? 52 Queen, something like that. Okay. And in fact, go ahead and put up a map here. Can you go ahead and mark that down and initial it? Okay. And how many feet from the front door of 1122 King Road is that? You said 200 feet? 200 yards. What are we talking? Okay. And now, on 11/23, when you wrote up your fourth report here, you'd performed a lot of tasks before this, though, correct? So is there a reason that you're picking and choosing what reports to finish out? Yes, because if it was something that we were still working on, then it would be still like, I'm still working on it. There's still stuff to be had with it, so I wouldn't finish that report yet because, so this is something that you finished out. Okay. And this has to do with, like I said, it's not my words, it's actually yours. You said that the spot also displayed a similar drop pattern to the blood spots found on the banister wall and the wall on the stairwell to the ground floor, which I observed inside 1122 King Road. Okay. Now, did you observe that on your initial walkthrough, or was it just over time? Because you'd been inside the 1122 King Road apartment many a times up until the 23rd, correct? It wasn't just on 11/13, correct? Okay. And before 11/23, there was also video surveillance that you would have seen. Okay. Is there any reports of you watching and looking at surveillance video up to this point? No. Okay. Do you mention it? Because this is about you obtaining a search warrant. Isn't that correct? Yeah. Okay. Go ahead and look at the second paragraph here, Detective Payne. And you're writing down in a report on 11/23, or I'm sorry, on 12/13. This is what you did on 11/23, right? And you notice, or I'm sorry, that you note that I returned to MPD and was notified by Detective Vargas, who was reviewing security camera footage provided by the owners of 1320 Linda Lane, right? And it's of a possible footage of someone walking by the camera at 3:50. Okay. So isn't it true, Detective Payne, that you believed that this person could have been on foot who committed the crime? Okay. And this would have been after you had 1112 King Road camera footage, where you knew that there was a vehicle that was suspicious at 3:30, 3:56, and 4:20. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we knew about that. Okay. So, what kind of car did you think that was? A white Honda Elantra. Okay. Did Jack Showalter drive a white Honda Elantra? No. Okay. And isn't it true that you still got a search warrant? Okay. And we're interested in spraying the outside of his apartment door, right? Yep. Sure were. Okay. And isn't it true then your next report here, the fifth and final report that you wrote up prior to the arrest of my clients, you only wrote up 5, is report 75. Or I'm sorry, report 74. And that's a report that has to do with, it's a part 1 of part 2 of you applying for and getting a search warrant, right? And so on 11/15, you're writing this up on 12/13. You applied for and was granted a search warrant for Queen Road based off of the following information as well as previous investigation. Okay. And isn't it true that you did this at 10 o'clock in the morning? Okay. So my question is at 10 o'clock in the morning, you go over and you notice, what do you notice? Well, we noticed stuff outside of Jack Showalter's apartment. And this is important because you know about the Twitch video, correct? The hoodie guy following the girls, it looks like. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then is it before or after 10 o'clock in the morning that Detective Vargas says, oh, hey, I went through all of this video from Linda Lane and I found the 350 figure that's walking right past where Jack Showalter's apartment is, right? And heading towards Queen, or heading towards the scene, correct? You met back up with them, right, Detective Powell? I returned to MPD and was notified by Detective Vargas, who was reviewing security camera footage provided by the owners. So you wrote this in multiple reports, correct? And you stated that you could not see any video that actually captured the person walking back or on any other camera footage, right? This person that you saw at 350, correct? And you wanted to note that, hey, it goes right to where the house is, right? At approximately 350 per the timestamp on the video, right? Now let's talk about that for a second. You don't know if that timestamp was accurate, do you? No? Okay. Because you wrote per the timestamp on the video. You didn't authenticate that at the time? Okay. The figure walks west, and then you said the figure is not captured by the camera any further. That's not correct, though, is it, Detective? That's not a correct statement, right? Cue up Linda Lane. Play at 4. And the time would play where most certainly there is a figure that's walking back and gets into a vehicle. Do you recall seeing this, Detective Payne, when you've been going through any of the surveillance? So someone does come back, correct? And you just didn't see it at the time? And they get into a vehicle? And that vehicle leaves? Okay. Your team became aware of the cameras in the area on 11/13, isn't that correct? And isn't it true that ISP would have provided you copies of everything that they would have gotten? They kept writing in all the reports. We provide you a copy, MPD. And you guys are all co-located at the same place. Is that correct? Okay. Isn't it true that maintenance workers ended up calling you and telling you that they had gone into Jack Showalter's apartment because he had asked for a work order done on his apartment? Did you ever get a work order from the maintenance department and put it into evidence? No. Okay. So you asked to talk to this gentleman on the phone, and he just said, I know what spatter looks like, and there's spatter, blood spatter all over the bathroom. Is that correct? And you use this information that you obtained. So you spray down his outside on 11/15, and it's not positive for blood. But not only that, but you say that somebody looks like they had wiped off the deadbolt, correct? Okay. And you looked at the other ones, and they hadn't been wiped down. This one looked wiped down. You sprayed, no blood, correct? And then days would go by, and you interviewed Jack Showalter a couple different times through Idaho State Police. Isn't that correct? You got his phone. Isn't that correct? And then all of a sudden, well, Jack Showalter tells you that he wasn't planning on returning to the school until after Thanksgiving break, right? Okay. And so when he was gone, you didn't tell him. Well, first of all, did you ask him if you can go into his apartment? You just didn't ask him and see if he would just give you permission. You are aware, though, on the 14th when he called to make himself available, he said, I'd love to help. I saw my parents and they said that I should call and I would love to be of any help that I could be. So you didn't ask if you can get into his apartment? Okay. You didn't just like arrest him though because of the video, right? You didn't just see that video and say, oh my God, he's totally following these girls. Okay. And then let's just arrest him, right? So you obtained a search warrant outside of his apartment, and then you obtained a search warrant to go actually into his apartment, which was after the maintenance guys tell you that Jack Showalter called them or turned in some maintenance form that he wanted his water quality checked. Isn't that correct? Okay. But you didn't upload in your report that work order, correct? And did you ever ask Jack Showalter if he had asked for a work order? Okay. Are you aware in your report when you actually went into Jack Showalter's apartment, you wrote down in your report that you did 94 swabs? Did you collected 94 samples or swabs? Do you recall that? And then you actually had to write another report because months, even I think a year later, the Latah County prosecutor's office got in contact with you and said they had a question about your report. And it said that you collected 94 samples from Showalter's apartment. And then you realized you said that you, reviewing over the material, you didn't put the parenthesis. It was supposed to be not a 9, but the parenthesis instead of the 9, right? And so it was supposed to be 4. Are you aware, though, that actually they took 6 samples, not 4? Are you aware of that? Two of these actually are, there's 2 swabs. So it's actually like they took 6 samples. But they were just listed as item numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. But are you aware? Let's see here. In ISP Powell's report, where he states that there was 6 swabs, are you aware of that? So that wouldn't be accurate either, right? Or somebody, I should say, is inaccurate, right? If one report's saying that there was 6 and you're saying that there was 4, and at one point you said that there was 94. So it was not only just a typo, but then it was an incorrect number because there actually were 6 swabs done. How did you we'll scratch that. You did surveillance on Jack Showalter, isn't that correct? And that surveillance was done December 3rd of 2022. And this was after you knew that he did not own a white Honda Elantra. Is that correct? This would have been after you put the bolo out on 11/25 that you were looking for a white Honda Elantra. Okay. And so you knew that he didn't drive one. Is that correct? And it didn't deter you from thinking that this is your suspect, right? As well as there's a couple other people, correct? So Detective Payne, at the end of November and at the beginning of December, isn't it true that you guys had thought that it was definitely a possibility that the person or persons that committed this crime were on foot? Yes or no? Isn't it true that you would obtain search warrants because you believe that you're going to find something from that? There's a probability, right? That's what probable cause is for. Now, the next report that you would author in connection with this case was Report 101, which was on January 6, 2023. And that was me and my staff here, Ann Taylor, requesting stuff from the scene on 1/6/2023. Do you know that you wrote your report for something that was asked of you on 1/6/2023? You wrote it the same day, 45 minutes later. But you have still yet to write about Emily Allant, Jack D, and all the tasks that you were doing up and until the arrest of my client, correct? But here, 45 minutes after you're tasked with something, which is to take me and my staff to the crime scene and we tell you to take items because we couldn't believe that you did not get the bed, the mattress, the comforter, things like that, correct? And then the next report you write up was on January 10th, 2023, and it was for the tasks on November 23rd, which was your interview with Molly McMichael. And now earlier during this process of the interview, during your cross-examination, you had stated that when you were done with something, that's when you finish it out and you'd go ahead and finish off the report. That's why there would be these gaps or whatever. Okay. So you weren't done with Molly McMichael until January 10th. Is that correct? And you weren't done, and that was after the arrest of my client. And you weren't done with Emily Allant until January 10th off of an interview that happened on 11/13. Right? Okay. Let's talk about this interview with Molly McMichael. Well, now, isn't it true, based on what Molly McMichael told you, she had seen, first of all, she never said that she saw a white Elantra or someone that resembles my client, correct? In fact, she gave you a different description of a male, correct? Blonde, reddish hair, spiky, collared, preppy shirt, in a sedan, tan sedan. Isn't that correct? Tan sedan. Okay. So let's go back to that report that you wrote, which was your second report. And it talks about you took the MPD school car, and that's the silver Ford Fusion. Is that the car that the Plain officers drove the night before the homicides on 11/12 while they were patrolling around that night? And who was driving that vehicle? Tisdale and Nate Rosendahl. Okay. And isn't it true that you took the vehicle, this specific vehicle, because they were out driving that night in the area? No, Detective Payne, you could take any car that you possibly want, your car, any car, to do a drive test. To do what? What's it for? You said you drove two separate routes in front of the camera located at Ridge Road. Okay. There is no even report that a Ridge Road camera exists in the Moscow Alps Police Department at that point, right? What's this Ridge Road camera? When did you obtain this Ridge Road camera? Okay, there's no report of it, though. At that point in time, there's no report of it. Okay. So who told you about the Ridge Road camera? That you were like, I'm going to get out there and drive in front of this Ridge Road camera. What was the purpose of that? Somebody obviously had told you to do that, or you decided to do that. Why? Okay. Then you decide not only you're going to do that, but you're going to take this vehicle to do it in. Moscow Police Department Fusion car, right? And you don't mention how long your timed runs take, correct? But that was important for you to figure that out, right? And why was it important for you to figure out how long it would take, Detective Payne? Isn't it true that it had something to do with the 1112 camera as well as the different cameras with Linda Lane? Yeah, that's probably why. Okay, great. So you wanted to compare, you said, to compare the color of the test vehicle to that of the suspect vehicle. Okay. Once I completed these runs, I drove to 1122 King Road and walked the route of Molly McMichael that she stated she took well on foot near the house on 11/13/2022. I also parked the MPD school car on Queen Road immediately to the east of the house, right? And because you wanted to observe the effects of the orange tinted streetlights. Isn't that correct? The lights appear to make the silver vehicle look tanner in color than it would under white streetlights. So this could have been a vehicle that Molly McMichael saw. Is that what you're saying? Because the silver car looks tan? Okay. And isn't it true that Officer Tisdale wrote up a report, and he said the night that he was working on 11/12 going into 11/13 that they had made numerous loops around that area, circling and making the same route every time around Queen. Isn't that true? Yes, that's true. Okay. And you had Linda Lane and you had 1112 cameras. Isn't it true on Linda Lane cameras, there is no vehicle that's circling around during the time frame that they said that they would have been doing that? Did you ever go to corroborate that statement to see like, hey, they're saying that they're making these loops around. Let's go check out and see how many times cars are going around in that area. There's actually a big gap, isn't there, Detective, of no cars traveling in these loops going around Queen. Isn't it true, Detective Payne, that you were looking to see if, in fact, the car that was driving around that you have pegged as suspect vehicle 1, were you seeing if that, in fact, could have been suspect vehicle 1? I mean, why else would you take this vehicle to do this? Officer Payne, do you recall when I asked you how you came across the 700 block Indian Hills video back at a previous proceeding? And you had said you believed it was Detective Vargas that gave you that information? Okay. Are you aware that the undercover plainclothes Ford Fusion vehicle was in the same area of Indian Hills at that same time that night? Are you aware of and familiar with a term called the Banfield body cam? Okay. And are you aware of the undercovers, plainclothes, Jacob and Nate, turning on their body cams as they are pulling out of the White's parking lot at about 2:52, 2:53 a.m. And they park their vehicle, this vehicle that you took, right on the side street. And they were writing up open containers, minor in possession tickets. Okay. Are you aware of what time that incident was cleared? Are you aware that do you have any personal knowledge of this? At the time that, well, first of all, isn't it true that Nate Rosendahl never wrote up any reports of what he did that night? And it was only Joshua Tisdale that wrote up a report? Who asked him to write up a report? Was that you? Of what he did that night? Well, you were in charge of this investigation, weren't you? So somebody else would have done that, but did you review his report? Okay. If you could take a look at the last paragraph here where it says during one of the patrols in this area, while approaching the southwest corner of 500 Queen Road, I recall seeing a darker colored vehicle with taillights on. This vehicle was parked facing south on the south side of the parking lot. Towards the west end, there was a short section of the parking lot which extended to the west of 500 Queen Road, south of 1122 King Street, which was where the vehicle was. Were you ever able to find out what type of vehicle this was? Okay. Also, Tisdale told you guys in a report that it was to the best of his recollection that this was between 2 and 3. And he also stated that as they traveled north on the west side of the apartment complex, he's saying, I saw several individuals approaching the residence at 1122 King Street. During this detail, I was looking for alcohol beverages, open containers, things of that nature, right? Okay. Now, you guys also interviewed a guy by the name of Eric Grower. Is that correct? He was the Uber driver. And he had stated that when he dropped the girls off, isn't it correct that he noticed that there was a silver or tan vehicle that was parked off on the side of the street on the left side when he was dropping off the girls at 156. Isn't that correct? Okay. And doesn't Officer Tisdale say that he made the same loop every time? He said, during this detail, Officer Rosendahl and I made several patrols through the area of King Street and Queen Street. Well, Queen Road. During each patrol of the area, we traveled on the north side of 500 Queen, heading east. We wrapped around the building, that loop, right? The same loop that you have testified to that the suspect vehicle makes 4 times, correct? Now, are you aware that he wrote this up on 11/15, okay, 2022? And he is saying that I made several patrols through the area. And if you actually look at the the Linda Lane camera footage, There are no vehicles making loops between 12 a.m. and 2 a.m. There are no vehicles making loops between 12 a.m. and 3 a.m. Isn't that correct? So, isn't it true that it is highly possible that based off of this man's report, who's telling you that he made several trips back in that area, that the vehicle that you guys keep seeing looping, in fact, could be, some of them could be this vehicle? And in fact, couldn't the vehicle that you found at the Indian Hills 700 block at 326, couldn't that in fact be suspect vehicle 1, which is the undercovers? Right before they turned on their body cams when they got to Identity Apartments to interview Sign Guy at 3:31. Isn't that correct? Now, did you notice in this report that he wrote up, did you find it at all interesting that Jacob wants to tell you in a report that you would have read that he cleared the Banfield situation? Okay. He looked at his radio history, and upon 3 individuals at Taylor Avenue at about 2:55, to the best of my recollection, this was after exiting King Street, after seeing the individuals at 1122 King Street. We cleared this contact at Banfield at 3:32. And that's not correct, right? Because we have them actually leaving from Linda Lane. You have that footage, isn't that correct? At about 3:19. And you have the body cams coming on prior to 3:32 over there at Identity. Isn't that correct? And isn't it correct that he's going off of the radio? The radio. And that's when something is actually called in and spoken to versus like your body cam, which is actually on you, correct? And if you turn that on, isn't it true, Detective Payne, in your training experience, that your body cam, if you turn that on before you actually radio anything in, it would totally be 2 different times, right? But if we're pressing a button and your body cam comes on, like that would be the more accurate than the radio. So in your training and experience, did you at all feel that Detective, or I should say Officer Tisdale, was trying to mask his location between 3:19 a.m. and 3:32 a.m., making it seem like he couldn't have possibly been the suspect vehicle car over there on Indian Hills trails? Because now everything that I just showed you here, and we'll call out Officer Tisdale, don't worry. Everything that I showed you here Officer Tisdale would have to see his body worn camera and then say, yeah, that would be incorrect. Yeah, based off of the body cam, then it would be this time. Based off of the body cam, it would be this time. And you have no reason to believe that these body cams aren't correct, right? There's no report in the 314 pages that say, hey, oh my gosh, due to daylight savings times, we didn't turn back our clocks, okay? Is there anywhere that that's any part in any report? And that'd be something that you would note, correct? And the best way to check that out would be to check out a different incident that happened before the murders, right? But after daylight savings time to see what those body cams are at. Wouldn't that be the best accurate way to do that? And did you guys do that in the situation? Okay. Now, Detective Payne, isn't it true that when you interviewed Jack D, you took his cell phone from him immediately? Isn't that correct? So he didn't have his cell phone with him during his interview like other people had during their interviews, correct? Okay. So when you began to interview him at 2:37 p.m. on 11/13, right? And he told you that he was working Saturday from about 2 to 10. Okay. Then he dropped off food for a friend at work. Okay. And then went home and then back to the corner club at 11. He got a ride. Right. Okay. And he was unsure who left first, if it was him or Kaylee. That was a question that you asked. Okay. And that he told you when he got home, he went to sleep. Okay. He also told you that he thought he got home around 1 a.m. Okay. But this was without his cell phone, right? Okay. So he didn't have his cell phone on him. Okay. Then you asked him, how was he notified about what was going on? He said that he saw a commotion at King with the cops being all parked out there. So that's how he was made aware, and he walks over. Isn't that correct? And so he then tells you in this interview that he saw his phone had missed calls from Kaylee and Maddie, right? But he doesn't have his phone, so we can't like point this out to you because you've already taken it from him. Isn't that correct? Okay. And so without his phone is that he thought he was home at 1 p.m. and he based on if I got home at 1, then I was in bed by like 1:30. That's how he was doing everything, correct? He said about 30 minutes later. Okay. He told you the correct person that gave him a ride, correct? He told you the correct time, his time frame for work, correct? And he told you that he woke up at 11:30 a.m. And he also told you that those missed calls were between the hours of 2:40 and 3 o'clock, and there was one FaceTime. And he did all of this without his phone. Isn't that correct? And he remembered that at 2:15, Keely had texted about the vape pen and that he could come get it, correct? Well, was he remembering this as in like he saw it the next day that he was telling the way he was talking, or did he remember it as in like he saw it before he went to bed type of thing? And now this was a report that you didn't write up until what, 2 months later, right? So we're going to talk about this chain now of how you were notified, Detective Payne. Isn't it true that Gunderson called Barrett and that Tyson Barrett called Fry, Lanier, Dollinger, and Lawrence? Okay. And then Lawrence then called Payne, Blaker, Vargas, and ISP. Okay. And ISP has marked down that they got that phone call at 12:22. So there's no way to dispute that. That's like, it's a timestamp that you're going off of official record of calling something in. So there's no way around this, correct? Okay. Barrett said, and he told you that he arrived after Murphy had been transported. At 1:30, Barrett had told the students that were sitting outside their house, their witnesses, whoever was sitting outside there, hey, we're going to take all of you guys and we're going, like, you guys all need to come down to the MPD. okay, to be interviewed at 1:30. Now Barrett, I'm sorry, Dollinger rather, we're trying to figure out who called first to notify the University of Idaho. Because there's a person by the name of CF from the school that went to the police station to comfort the students. Okay. And in a report we have at 2:15 that Barrett met with President Green at Green's office on campus. 2:15. Now, are you aware that President Green wrote a book? And President Green said that he didn't get to his office or quote unquote command center until 4 p.m. You probably don't have much time to read books. And wasn't that book during the pendency of this case that book was released? And then Jack Decor approached Barrett and Dollinger 2 times about the dog before the dog was released. And you guys didn't do anything with the dog, right? No testing, no nothing, right? Okay. I think I recall, Detective, back at a different proceeding, I had asked you, what did you do in connection with this case, Detective Payne? Okay. And I'm going to ask you that again here. I'm going to ask you, what were you in charge of and what were your tasks between November 13th and December 29th? Because there just are no reports of you doing anything. Isn't that correct? You guys, no joke. Okay, so that's where I'm stopping. So yesterday I put in like 4 hours to really research what Payne could have been and should have been doing. And then paid attention to when these reports would be like written up after the fact. And so I went and made a list. So like here, like supplemental 106 was the interview of Emily Allant. It was done on 11/13, obviously. It started at 1:49 p.m. in the afternoon, and it was written up on 1:10. Why were you hanging on to Emily Allant's? What more did you have to do with that? And I know what it's about, and it's all about what their cell phones were going to show. Okay. So supplemental report number 110, the next report he did, that came on the same, that came on the same day. And it's the same report that he wrote on 1/6/2023. So it's like, did you forget that you wrote a report? Let me show you what I mean by that. Report 110 is the same report that he wrote on 1/6. Like he wrote the same thing. And it's like, wow, you didn't realize that you had wrote this report? It's pretty crazy. Supplemental report 111 is the interview at 2:20. And that's with Maisie. Okay, she went to the report 114 is the Jack Decor. So I'm able to, like, if you pay attention to these timestamps, So 149, he interviews Emily. It couldn't have gone that long because at 2:20, he's interviewing Maisie. Okay. At 2:37, he begins the interview with Jack Decor. Okay. So I'm tracking him based off of his reports. Supplemental report 115. He said that he reviewed body cam to find the glove that was from 11/24/2022 that he saw. And he said, in this review of the body cam, I can't see that glove is there. Okay. I'm saying Detective Payne's cross-examination would be so long. Okay. And it'd be something like, this in itself, okay, we see it. We've all seen the body cam now. You can see that glove, but it'd be important to find out, where is Payne saying that the glove that he picked up and put in a bag, what is he talking about? He said he went to the ISP pictures to see like when it was there. Dude, we see it. It's there. We saw it. So he would get eaten up alive when this report comes about, and he has to talk about right here, supplemental report 115, and he says, hey, that glove was not there. Okay, so we have no idea when it got put there. Lana, I hope you're noticing just how much we see how capable you are. Oh, thank you. That was really kind. Yeah. Next report 122, date that this was done. On 118, and it was, Emily Allant's mom and Emily call Detective Payne and tell them about an incident where Murphy had run off in the woods. Okay. Then report 131. Like, this is going in order. 126, that was the written date. It was for something that he did on 11/17. Supplemental report 135. It was written on February 1st. It was something that he did on 12/29, which is writing up the search warrants and shit. But they're just so. Report 136. Known info and the cell phone search warrant stuff. 137. Again, look at when he's doing this task. Okay, and then look at when the report's written. And basically, what the conclusion I came to is that Detective Payne knows how to do this. He knows, hey, you do something, and then when are you writing up this report? Okay, you know that you're supposed to be writing up reports soon thereafter. Okay? But that's just not what was happening until the arrest of Brian Koberger. After the arrest of Brian Koberger, then anything that he did, he was writing a report about what he did within anywhere between a day, 2 days, 3 days, to a week. Okay? And that's why the message here to let everybody know is Detective Payne, I personally believe, he didn't do much. He was not. I don't know how the FBI. Darren Gilbertson's the same way. Where's your reports of what you were doing? If I'm in charge, then that means I'm like delegating duties. Like, hey, you're going to go do this. Okay. And then you're reporting back, right? Well, him saying that he turned over the file to the FBI on his drive runs, there's not even a report in here about Ridge Road cameras, but you have to go look at Idaho State Police and you have to do a parallel. So that's what I'm working on right now, is to then do parallel with the dates of all of this, of what was going on, so that what were you able to really know? So if I don't turn something in, even though I did it, if I don't write a report or I don't turn something in, I mean, think about how many people were doing things on a given day, and then we're supposed to sit down in a room and everybody's supposed to like what? If you're just running a recorder, do you really take notes nowadays, or you just I'm gonna write my report off of. I'm gonna be writing like scribble stuff, but when you're sitting down at the end of the day, okay, hey, let's all talk about what we learned today. How long do you think that would take? And thank you there, Joe. 5 gifted memberships. Why be so nosy? Let's rock and roll. The goal and I deserve support. Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Moon, what's up? 21 months. Australia. Down under. Mary Holt, love you. Amanda, love and appreciate you so much. Um, P Fox. I went through some of these earlier. Where is Donna? $10. Love your content. Always a pleasure. Watch. Thank you. Cheryl hit me on Cash App and said, "Great work." China hit me up in PayPal. Happy Labor Day. $50. Thank you so much there. Donna, to the best of my knowledge, I don't recall. I love that statement there. William, $10. Why be so nosy? Really appreciate. Yes, we're trying. William. William, such a sweetheart. Sam Pantha, 18 months. Coming up to 2 babies. Lady Cowman, what a name. Welcome. Brian lived by my house and was security guard at Pleasant Valley while my kids attended. Wow, I drove by his house all the time. Nuts. 5 divine. That is nuts. That is nuts. Email if you want to drop the email in chat. Would love to hear more about that. But I gotta vet it. Make sure you're not lying, sir. Moon, another moon member for 13 months. Joe, yes. The FBI did it all. That's what I'm saying. The FBI did it all. The FBI did it all. Everything seems like they're going to the FBI, you know? But it's like, I mean, you guys seen the list? Oh, where is it? Let's look at this. Let me show you. Okay. This is law enforcement's list of who was going to be testifying, law enforcement wise. And so I've been going through this. And I was making a list of people that were interesting to me that, look at that. Like, who's not on here that I think should be on here? Gary Tolson's not on here. I think he should be on there. Jacob Tisdall's not on here. Nate Rosendahl's not on here. Is Olson on here? No. Olson. He took the dog. Is Dollinger on here? Barrett? No. Dollinger? No. It's pretty crazy when you actually go through it. I would have just loved to see how you would have potentially Oh, Schneider. Is Schneider on here? Ryan Schneider's on here. Um, Warner is on there. Smith, not on there. Smith is an important person that's not on there. First responder. So, oof. Gunderson's on there. What else did I find that was interesting? And when he decided to put this report in, oh, he goes and takes pictures on 3/15, standing up by Walenta, looking at the house. And so he does the act on 3/15, and then he writes up the report on 3/21. He does this act on 3/9, writes up on 3/15. 2/18, writes up on 3/9. This had to do with a tip. It's a wrong tip. 3/3, writes up on 3/9. Wrong tip. 1/23, writes up on 3/9. He goes and gets the Duke body cam of the official, and that's just a miracle that Blaker goes and gets the WSU stuff. Oh, here, turn this into 2/28, writes it up on 3/2. And so you see all of this, and you're just like, yeah, you're doing a task, and then you're writing up your report, right thereafter, very soon. And that's just not what you see in the first 2 months. You see the opposite. Donna, Any of the Best channel. Nothing further. You guys remember that statement? Nothing further. All right. Let's see. Okay. All right. Here's something new for you guys. These are the witness list follow-up. Okay, how this worked is this is a report that was written on 6/3/2025. So you guys should know how soon that was. It's these are reports 204, 205, 206, and 207. And my thought with this is this could either look really bad, depending on how it was explained, or it would show that it looks really good in protecting her hand, meaning Ann Taylor's. But these reports have to do with the fact that Idaho State Police, after they were given the witness list by the defense put in, just like how they had to, the state puts in their witness list. And then the defense is putting in their witness list. And this has to do with lay witnesses, which is, not law enforcement. And so Idaho State Police Detective Roberts contacted multiple subjects by telephone who had been identified as witnesses by the defense counsel for the upcoming trial of Brian Koberger. Koberger had been charged. And it was like, I think there's right around like 10 people that was each report has to do with. So this is like 30. So here on May 30th, I contacted multiple subjects by phone who have been identified as witnesses by the defense counsel for the upcoming trial. Subjects contacted and details of the interview are as follows. So now what I did, because they used ABC, so I just wrote down like 1, 2, 3, 4, so count it out for everybody. But each person was called, and so he had been subpoenaed by the defense counsel for the first trial, but has not been subpoenaed for the new trial. So that's what this person said. He has not had any contact with the defense counsel for Brian Koberger. All right. So again, this is based off of the list. Hold on one second. Okie dokie. So number 2 here, this person had not received a subpoena or had any contact with the defense. Person 3, this person, he was interviewed by the defense counsel around 4/2/2024, okay, which would have been a year prior, which was arranged by Washington State University and was attended by WSU Attorney General. I was interested in number 3. Number 3 is he was interviewed. Yeah, so number 3 to me is somebody that has to do with WSU going there. Okay. Okay. Let me just do something really quick. Oh, you're welcome, Muffy. I'm glad I can make your day. Number 4, this person, it was a girl. She had received subpoenas from the state and the defense counsel. She has not had any direct contact with the defense counsel. However, retired attorney and family friend blank communicated once with blank on her behalf after she received her subpoena. This person, he has received subpoenas from the state and the defense. He has had no contact with the defense counsel other than to call their office after receiving the subpoena, inquiring as to when he would have to testify. Defense counsel has not called him back. This next person, person 6, he has received a subpoena from the defense. He has not had any contact with the defense counsel. He has received number 7, same thing. However, he didn't remember if he was from the state or the defense. Number 8, she has not received any subpoenas. She has not had any contact with the defense counsel. Nine, I have not had any contact with blank at the time of this report. I have attempted phone calls and text message. What? Who are you texting? That was funny to me. We finally get some action here. Okay. So again, person number 10, they had been subpoenaed. Remember, there was a schedule for the first trial. Remember the speedy trial that was going to happen? And that was waived. Okay. Then that's what they're referring to. This has nothing to do with the grand jury. Now, this person here, number 12, he has received a subpoena from the defense. He was interviewed by defense investigators by phone about 8 months ago. They asked him questions about his daily experience, whether he heard a dog barking during the time around the murders, and what his experience was the morning after the murders. He felt as if the investigators were attempting to, quote unquote, wrap me into the case. The investigators told him it was unlikely he would have to testify. Uh, all right. Now, Ann Taylor being around the block for a while, right? She knows that once she submits this witness list, okay, they're going to get phone calls. So, is it smart? Let's see, that you would not talk to anybody now or you could look at it as like, why the hell are these people on a witness list? And some of these people aren't even subpoenaed yet. Well, again, with everything going on in this case, you could see the interest in keeping things as close as you possibly can to your chest. I don't believe that any of these people are Enon Harsh, by the way. People are writing that in chat, so no. On June 3rd through the 5th, again, this is a new report here. So this is the same thing, though. This is the witness list follow-up. And person number 1, she had been subpoenaed by defense counsel for the preliminary hearing. Okay, so this is back. And received a subpoena here in March of 2025. She was interviewed by the defense counsel before the preliminary hearing. Okay, but hasn't been in contact with them since. She provided a list of questions asked by the defense counsel via email. This email is attached to this supplemental report as an e-file. Well, you might want to go and get that on a FOIA request there. That's the next person here. Had been contacted. He had received a subpoena for the preliminary hearing and was notified by his former fraternity brothers that law enforcement had recently attempted to serve a subpoena at his former address. He has not had any contact with defense counsel for Kohlberger. Ever. That's what it looks like to me. This is person 16. She has not received a subpoena or had any contact with defense counsel for Kohlberger. This is person 17. I placed calls to 3 phone numbers associated with this person on June 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and I left voicemails and nothing. Here is 18. This person, she has received a subpoena from the defense counsel for Kohlberger. She has had no contact with the defense counsel, but believes they have attempted to call her. She has not called them back. Shit. Number 19 here. The police were really interested in this person's name as I contacted blank on June 5th and arranged for her to meet with Moscow Police Department Detective Fox at the Moscow Police Department. Detective Fox advised that she had not received a subpoena or been in contact with the defense counsel. And the reason I'm saying they're really interested in this person is they are calling this person in and they arranged to meet at the Moscow Police Department for this person. Why are they interviewing this person? This person is saying that Detective Fox advised that she had not received a subpoena or been in contact with the defense counsel. But before that, I contacted this person on June 5th and arranged for her to meet with Moscow Police Detective Fox at the Moscow Police Department. All these other ones, you're on the phone, you're just simply asking, have you talked to the defense? And the answer is no. And that's all there is. Here, this one, number 19, whoever this is, this person is very, very, very important. And it's like, the police are like, yeah, we actually never talked to this person. But at the end of the day, something was up. This is completely different if you're reading all of these on how the other ones sound. Okay. Number 20. Now, this person also advised Detective Fox that her husband, blank, had not received a subpoena or been in contact with the defense. I attached my notes as an e-file. It's like, okay, we'll get on that. Next. Again, these are the witness list follow up. And so at first I was like, oh man, does this make Anne look like, see, this woman wasn't going to trial? Or does it make Anne look smart and like, dude, I know that you guys are going to go try to interview these people. And I know that you're going to ask them X, Y, and Z. Okay. And so if I don't talk to them yet, okay, I'll talk to them at the last minute. Or maybe I don't even need to talk to them. Because Ann Taylor knows how this works. They are allowed to be talked to, right? And Ann Taylor's like, listen, we're not talking to any of these people. Because then the state is going to have how much time to do X, Y, and Z. They're not going to know what we're going to be doing. So that to me seems like a tactic, and this is like strategy. So, anyways, here this is person 21. Person 21. The defense subpoenaed him on 4/18/2025. He has reached out multiple times to the defense, but has yet to make any contact with the defense counsel. This person wanted to add that approximately 2 weeks before the homicides occur, he saw a lone white male with black hair driving north. Okay. Now I'm like, okay, I already know who this person is. Past his residence. Blank stated the male was driving a white colored sedan. Blank stated this memory came back to him after Kober had been arrested and the news media released a video of the traffic stop that occurred with Kober and his father in Indiana. Because now remember, the way this operates is Ann Taylor gets these reports. So like when Ann Taylor is putting in for supplemental discovery requests, she's getting this. She's asking for stuff like this. And so then she would have seen this. Ann Taylor has seen this. Ann Taylor saw this. Person number 22, she has received a subpoena from both the defense and the prosecution. She has only spoken with the witness coordinator at the prosecution's office and has no contact with the defense counsel. Person 23, she received a subpoena from the defense counsel. She spoke with someone from Ann's team. She's calling them Ann's team. On May 8th, she is unaware of what she will be testifying to. Because, like, what? I have no idea what I'm testifying to. I have no idea what's coming my way. Nobody knows shit. Person 24, he has received a subpoena from the defense counsel. He has not had contact with the defense counsel. Person 25, well, I liked them. This person is unable to locate, okay, whoever this is. ISP said, you guys, we can not locate this person. Okay, unable to locate with the provided phone number of blank. Then we used their background check, TLO. Report was run through ISP dispatch and was unable to obtain a positive match. We have no idea who this person is. And I was just like, oh, that's interesting. Then we have person 26 here. She has received a subpoena from the defense counsel. She has spoken with someone from the defense counsel, but only for scheduling purposes. She is unaware of what she'll be testifying to. Nothing further at this time. And then the last one here is supplemental 207. And again, it's about these lovely witness list follow-up. Person 20, it should actually say 27 there. On May 28th, this person had not received a subpoena. He has not had any contact with the defense. The next person, she received a subpoena. She was interviewed on the phone by the defense team approximately 1 year ago. She talked about being at a party on Taylor Avenue with her friend Blank and waiting and walking home to her sorority. Who could it be now? Next person here on June 4th, he has not received a subpoena. He has not had any contact with the defense. And the last couple peeps here. Again, I think this should actually say 30, 31, 32, 33, but whatever. She has not received a subpoena. She has not had any contact with the defense. Next person here. Whoever this is, I have been unable to locate a working phone number for this person. It is not an active phone number. No contact has been made. Next up is another person I have not been able to locate a working phone number for. Is not an active phone number. No contact has been made. So back to back, I don't know if it's the same person or what. On June 5th, I was notified by Moscow Police Department, Officer Andrew, I think it's supposed to say, Fox had contacted Blank. Okay, don't know. And then on May 29th, so weird. Because this can't have anything to do with this because this was on June 5th, so this is on May 29th. This person has received a subpoena. He has not had any contact with the defense. So, and then I said, my opinion. I said, this does not look good for the defense unless it is to show how the state never talked to these people, or she knows that they can and will be contacted by Ellie and to keep it close to the vest until trial. And I'm going to go with that. Is why there's nothing. We're going to give a shout out to my boy, Outcast. Give a little shout out. We're going to play I want to use his. Let's hear what Jack Showalter. See here.
This is Sergeant Hathaway.
Hey, how's it going, sir?
Hey, how we doing?
My name is. I want to make like a statement about, the night of this Saturday.
Okay, what's going on?
I'm just friends with Maddie. I was with her at the bar that night, and I forget who. I don't know the person we left with. We left to get grub truck at like 2, and we were there from like 2 to probably latest 2:30, and then she and the other lady got picked up in a silver sedan. my only description I know. And then they went home from there. And I just wanted to let you guys know as far as like I knew about their whereabouts. I don't know if that helps with anything, but
I mean, yeah, anything helps. You said you were with them?
I was with Maddie at the corner club, and then they wanted to leave with Maddie and our friend. I don't recall who her friend was. I was intoxicated, but then we went to Grub Truck, and then they got picked up from Grub Truck.
Okay.
And that's as far as I knew about her whereabouts that night.
Okay. Well,
yeah, she just got in a silver sedan.
But you don't know who it was or anything?
No, I didn't see who the driver was.
And you said your name was...
Yes, sir.
How do you spell your last name? And do you have a middle initial?
Yes, sir.
Date of birth? What's that current address for you?
Yeah, I'm right down the road at...
You said...
Yes, sir.
Is that where you're at now?
Okay, this is when Jack Showalter calls in, and this is what's hilarious to me about this, is why would he be transferred to a Moscow Police Department, David Hathaway, to take this phone call? And if he's not calling about, like, as soon as you hear as like a dispatch person or, hey, I'm calling as I have information on the the homicides, why would this be sent to David Hathaway while he's driving in his patrol car, patrolling the area? Bizarre, right? Just absolutely bizarre. And how I know that he was transferred to this is because this isn't the first. There's a voicemail that occurs before this, and then Hathaway, and then there's another call. So it just, why would he be taking this call? Doesn't make any sense.
No, I drove home this morning.
Oh, okay.
I'm in Boise.
Oh, Boise.
Yeah, I was just talking to my parents, and I didn't know if I would be helpful or not. And my dad was like, yeah, anything could maybe help. So,
What's a good phone number for you?
yes, sir. It's
And what's the address that you're at now?
it's
Ridiculous. These beeps.
Boise, Idaho.
In Boise?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And you said that's your parents' place. What are your folks' name? Is there a home phone at that house?
Yeah.
What is it?
You want it?
So,
Yes. Oh, yeah. I mean, I think it's like I don't know how often they use it, but
I just
I don't
wondered.
think it's like a...
So you said,
Yeah.
what was the last four?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you just drove home today?
Yeah, it just seemed like everyone else in my house and a lot of the community was leaving, and I do live right down the road, so it kind of seems unsettling being around. Yeah.
No, I get it. Do you have a roommate or anything?
No, I live by myself.
Gotcha. Well, I'm guessing that one of the folks that is working the case, or like a detective or something, will probably want to have a conversation with you. Is that something you're down with doing?
Yeah, I'd love to help if I can help anyway.
Okay. What's the best way to get a hold of you?
The phone number can work. Call or text, whatever.
Your cell phone? Okay. How long are you going to be at your parents' house?
I mean, just until we figure out what's going on with school. I mean, just Thanksgiving break, and once classes are, once we figure out what's going on with classes, come back and.
So you're because there's still school left before Thanksgiving break, right?
Yeah, but I have a lot of classes that I just don't need to be currently there for.
Okay, so you're not planning on being in class?
Yeah, I just have stuff I can do on my computer.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I'll pass on your information. I appreciate you reaching out, and we'll have a detective get a hold of you and try to figure out a time to take a statement from you.
Okay, I appreciate you a ton.
All right. Take care. Thank
you. Yeah, you have a great night.
Yeah, you too.
Okay, so again, one can only ask themselves why this call would have been directed to this man is just beyond me. Again, as soon as the person, I mean, if I was happy, I'd be like, okay, you need to talk to so and so, like, you know what I mean? Even if I got sent it, like, I'm driving in my cop cruiser car versus somebody that's at Moscow Police Department, like, can ask him, you know what I mean? Like, just wild. Anyways, so that's that brief call. It's so brief. The next day at 11:15, they are beginning to write up search warrants and spraying on his porch. On 11:15, they supposedly get the footage from Linda Lane. On 11:15, they would have had the 1112 footage. Vargas is seeing a figure at 350, walking on foot over there. He did, Jack Showalter did tons of face-to-face interviews. This is just him calling. He called in himself, okay? He called in himself on 11:14 and just told them, like, hey, I was with Maddie. He does not, I believe him when he says it, because I'm going to tell you why I believe this. Listen, he doesn't know the girl's name, okay? Jack Showalter was in a fraternity with Maddie's boyfriend, who had already graduated. Jack Showalter was in the business college. Maddie was in the business college. Kaylee was not in the business college, okay? Jack Showalter had a girlfriend. He went to a different school, and so he was hanging out a lot with her. So he knew who Maddie was because of Maddie being in the business college and him being in the business college, and also Jack Showalter being in the same fraternity as Maddie's boyfriend. So this reminds me of my college days of when I was, my roommate was in, one of my roommates was an architect, okay? And it was like the DAP program, design, architecture, blah, 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 planning, whatever the fuck it stands for. And we would always joke, and when she's like, hey, I got to finish up a project, they were building something, and she's like, I have a date with DAP tonight. And I'm like, oh, all the architecture people, like, I didn't know who they were. I didn't know, like, those architect people, they don't know who the fuck I am. I'm one of that roommate, like, one of her best friends. I don't know who those people are. They don't know who I am. And we would be always referring to each other as, oh, my roommates, so I don't know who those people would have been. She's doing a project with at school for DAP. I don't know who those people are. And so they don't know who I am. But does not mean that, how the fuck does that person not know who you are? I'm like, because they didn't hang out with us. And my roommate has a relationship with them because she goes to, like, that's their business college, whatever they're in. That was architect. My other roommate does all this forensic. She's a forensic scientist. She does all the crime scene shit. So I'm explaining to everybody so they understand when they say, oh my God, he's lying. The fuck, he is not lying, okay? Jack Showalter, like, they were They got the guy's DNA. They got Jack Showalter's DNA. Okay, it did not match any of the DNA there. Um, I don't believe for any reason Jack Showalter is. It's no different than Richard Allen here. Hey, yeah, I'm calling, letting you know that I was with Maddie. I know Maddie. Okay. Um, then you can go on to see that ISP did 2 interviews with him. Then they staked out his parents' house and him and followed him around. Okay. Um, I would love to ask Jack Showalter, hey, did you ever fill out a maintenance slip to have your water checked? Dude, I think if he's even watching any of this shit right now, he would have found out during these reports being released, like, holy shit, that's what they said. That's how they got into my apartment. I didn't ask for any fucking. I want to hear from this kid. I want to hear this kid say, okay, or oh my god, I put in that water work order like in August. Okay. And so somebody was going through and they're like, oh, we have a work order here. Oh, looks like you should probably go fill it. Okay. Lana, I love you, but any of these friends could be lying. Hell yeah, they could be lying. But I'm telling you, what I'm telling you right now is that they had his DNA and they tested it against the glove, like all the DNA at the house. But you have to ask yourself, what more could they have tested it on? He said he didn't go to the house that night. I would have been testing the Keystone cans. Okay. I would have been swabbing the Keystone cans. Trust me, if they could put his DNA inside that house, all right, but they couldn't. They made up, as far as I'm concerned, okay, because they did not put it in the reports. I want to see the maintenance workup sheet to be able to get a search warrant to go into that kid's house, in that kid's apartment. Okay. Because honestly, what it ends up doing is it ends up fucking up the prosecution against Brian Koberger. Like all the shit that they were doing and just running around like recluses out there, like just that is going to hurt their prosecution of Brian Koberger. That's all it does. It's what people should look at is that when they got the name, when they have Jack Showalter here, okay, they didn't see the video of the grub truck and then arrest this guy and say, oh my god, you were fucking following them, you try to hide, you know what I mean? They got search warrants of different phases, right, to see if he could be the killer, right? Well, why didn't they do the same with Brian Koberger? That's my question. Why didn't they do the same with Brian Koberger? Why didn't they obtain the search warrant for, his apartment before his arrest? Why didn't they obtain a search warrant for this? All these things separately. The only thing that was done separately and before the arrest of Brian was this getting his phone records, right? And they lied in that. And they lied about what time, and that this car was this. I mean, it was all over the place, right? I don't think that any of these people were cleared. That's the thing, Brian. These people weren't cleared just because they said that we're clearing somebody. They didn't clear anybody. They were just, they'll tell you that people are cleared so that you get all loosey-goosey. And you do things like, oh, see, okay, I'm cleared. Like, none of these people were cleared. How I know they weren't cleared is because there was no reports in on them. They waited until after the arrest of Brian. Is that because you believe that Brian was, in cahoots with somebody to do this, that there was more than one person? I mean, these are all questions that those part of the answers aren't, we may never get, but I don't think anybody was cleared. Nobody was cleared. And let's talk about the 4 brothers. These could be like grandparents upon grandparents that had like 4 brothers. So what I see people talking about, that's why when Gabrielle Vargas comes on and talks about it, she's going to explain that these aren't 4 brothers that would be technically like at the age of 21. These would be a family that ended up having 4 brothers. And then these could be actually people that were in their like 60s, 50s, 40s. Okay. So I think everybody needs to understand that. And and why I've just waited to say, hey, hear from somebody in the industry. But these four brothers, people are like thinking that these are like four brothers that are in their 20s. That's, I think it's going to come out that that's not what it was. That these would have been older people because, again, they're trying to build out this family tree. So it's going to be four brothers who are like fathers, potentially grandfathers at their age, and that they're like you're talking about then like their lines. So Brian Rambles, thank you so much. He turned somebody green. Woo woo. And the Keystone pack in the back of Dylan's closet. I think we can all talk about these packs of alcohol. Some of them had all the different types of beer in them. I think the only thing that matters here, in my opinion, is the time of the crime. Is moving the time of the crime. Did the time of the crime happen at 4? Was it before then? Why are you going off of, like, why weren't you looking at, I don't know, the camera footage that you had, let's say at 2:30, 2:52, 3:15, 3:30, 3:45? You know, why? And the answer that every officer is going to give, in my opinion, is, well, because of the roommates. That's the timeline. We're going off of that. This incident would have just happened because of what they're texting back and forth. Because let's ask ourselves this, ready? If you take away the text messages between the roommates, all right, take those out of the equation. What time did this crime happen? Shit, we don't even have Ethan and Xana home. To this day, there's no way those officers could get on the stand and tell you what time Ethan and Xana came home. I'd love for them to talk about their phones and what's in their phones and how many steps and when their steps were and when their phones were moving. That's what I would think you would want to go off of. But if you take away the roommates' cell phones and their texting, what time did the crime happen? What time is the crime? And they're going to tell you, just like how Hitler asked, well, the whole bushy eye thing, okay? That's important for what? Dylan saying that she saw somebody. I think Ann Taylor, the way that she was going to attack that is that Dylan didn't see anything until after Bethany called her to alert her to this firework, okay? That's when Dylan was put into this panic, okay? Which means that it wasn't 15, 20 minutes earlier from 4:20, which would be 4 o'clock, when she saw Kaylee and Murphy dancing in the living room and heard them dancing in the living room. And then, oh, since Kaylee's going to bed with Murphy and they're going upstairs and it's time for me to go to bed, okay? And then when she gets up there, I'm trying to fall asleep and I hear Kaylee say, and you know, oh my God, there's someone here, and she's screaming. Okay. That all comes after Bethany calling her to say, hey, I just saw a firework. Did you hear that? Did you hear that firecracker? And that's at 4:20. But then Dylan's story is saying that she had tried to call her roommates, right? And she tried to call them, scream their names out, right? And if you look at the phone records, okay, and then I saw him after that. And then it's like, okay, if you go that route, then it can't be the 4:20 drive-away car is speeding away and that's the killer because he's still inside. How do you scrap the texts? Everyone have their phones next to them in bedrooms. Well, because I'm just saying the text messages are what you're going off of for your time of your crime. And then Ann Taylor's argument is if you believe If you believe them, if you believe how all of this transpired, okay, and Taylor's more or less, let me also put this in perspective too. From what was going on in that house from 2 a.m. until 4 a.m. How come everybody just wants to fast forward? They're like, okay, Kaylee and Maddie got home, everything was fine. Then we went to bed, and when it became not fine was at 4. Okay, well, we know that there's shit that transpired between 2 and 4 a.m. Because when you peel back the onion, and that's why there's questions like, okay, well, what happened when they got home? Like, you'd want to like truly break it down. And what we were able to realize from all of these interviews is that nobody saw, well, obviously Maddie and Kaylee can't talk, they're dead, but nobody saw Ethan and Xana ever come home. There is no recollection of that they came home or anything like that. Like when I was going to bed, Ethan and Xana, or Ethan and Xana must have got home before I did, and they were already asleep in their room because when I went to the bathroom, I peeked in and I saw them sleeping. None of the roommates knew that there was a DoorDash order. There's a picture of Xana taken at the Sigma Chi house at 2 a.m. from somebody else's phone. So she's able to be like, hey, I took this picture. Here's the background. It's Sigma Chi. So then at 2, you have Kaylee and Maddie getting home. They have Grub Truck. And then the girls are like, I want Grub Truck now. And so they ask Eric Grauer if he's still driving at 2:10. He responds at 2:13. And the state told the grand jury that Dylan didn't respond to him at 2:13 because she went to sleep, because she was asleep by the time he responded. And that she was asleep from 2:13 until she woke up to whatever. And that's just not true. Right? But then there's Bethany, right? And so you have Bethany. She comes home. The girl that was there leaves, that was there with Dylan. Her name's LM. She leaves right before Kaylee and Maddie come home. So then it had to be around 1:50 that she would have left because they get home at 1:56. Same time that Jack Decor is getting home in a different vehicle, mind you. And neither one of these people, so I would be asking, oh, did you see Kaylee on the phone for like 17 minutes? Remember, Jack D and Kaylee had this 16, 17-minute call, all right? So once you were to know that, you'd say, okay, so hey, what was Kaylee doing? Oh, she was upstairs getting ready for bed. And then Bethany and Maddie take out Murphy, and then Dylan went downstairs and went in her room. Okay. And then Bethany's like, yeah, I was out there for a little bit, but then I was like, I'm going to bed. So I came in before Maddie and the dog came in. So then I go to my bedroom. Okay. And then I turn on Baby Daddy, and I always lock my door. So my door was locked, and I was watching Baby Daddy on my iPad. Okay. Then what happens? Then Maddie comes down into my room and asks me if I have seen or if I have Murphy. Okay. Because she can't find Murphy. Okay. And then none of these officers ask, oh, okay, well, Maddie called you at 2:53. Oh, what do you mean, Maddie called you? Yeah, there's a 2-minute and 30-second phone call, Maddie and you. So did she come in your room? And maybe she'd be like, oh, yeah, that's when she told me that she found the dog. You get what I'm saying? Like, why aren't they asking these questions? Okay, you went to sleep. You turned off Baby Daddy on your iPad. You went to sleep, and then so when you went to sleep, did you see Ethan and Xana come home yet? No, they were not home when I went to bed. That's what that's what Bethany would have had to say in her interview if she was even asked that. But then she says Xana was wearing all black. You'd have to ask her, what is she talking about, right? And that's what Ann Taylor was getting at. Is that whatever Bethany heard and saw is unique to her. And just because of whatever you guys spewed at the grand jury doesn't make it true. That's what you went with. You went with the fact that these people were, everybody was home by 2 and in their rooms by 4. Um, and then they went with the fact that seeing the person inside the house, and that came because Dylan said that she saw this person. And the only thing that I want to walk people back on is that I think Ann Taylor was focused on the fact that she didn't see anybody. Okay. And she kept saying she doesn't know if that part is a dream. Okay. She's not saying that obviously everybody is dead. That's not the dream part. But the dream part is did she truly see a masked person at that time? Because if that's the case and you actually go in your timeline, then the car can't be associated with this person because she sees the masked man after the car already speeds away. Like, you just can't have it both ways. And I just want to see how Ann Taylor went about arguing it. And that's what's been sealed from us, is all of the filings. Ann Taylor's filings were 1,000 pages. 1,000 pages for the suppression. For the motion limiting, I have no idea how many that is. But for the Franks and the suppression, at first it was 1,900 with exhibits. Then she got it down to 1,000. Then we come to find out that if you take what Dylan's actually saying and you look at the episode from the Vampire Diaries, then you're like, oh my God, these are the words being said by these characters. You know? And if the dog is missing that early, right? And the dog has no blood. The dog has no blood on it anywhere, right? And it's like, was the dog lured away? Because then Dylan's talking about, yeah, I heard the dog barking, but it was barking like it was moving away. I heard the dog inside and outside. And then you're just like, what the fuck? But these cops refuse to actually look forensically at the roommates' phones. Why? Why would you ever just like refuse to look at these phones? And also like forensically look at, I mean, they were not in the back end of these phones until no time earlier than 11:28, unless they were saying that the feds were doing it and they were keeping that from everybody with the reporting and the way that it was working. But I don't know how the feds could have something and be working on something if the reports aren't back. I mean, I don't know how you do that. I have a hard time wondering why you would call friends over at noon when it's light outside and everything's, you know. But Hunter Johnson says in his report that he went over there because they couldn't wake up one of these second floor roommates. They couldn't wake them up. Well, that would lead to me believing that they tried to wake them up physically, right? What do you mean try to wake them up? Especially if I saw that their phones didn't have any calls to them. There's no calls. Bethany's phone, for the record, does not make any calls in the morning. Bethany, when she wakes up at 7 o'clock and starts calling her dad, she does not at any point in time make any phone calls to any of the roommates using her cell phone, nor any text messages. Now you'd have to pull up every other app that they would use. Okay, but I don't understand why you wouldn't be calling from your cell phone. Or why you wouldn't be texting. I mean, why you would have only used all just apps that morning, you know? But to say that nobody was answering and so we were scared, well, what do you mean nobody was answering? Nobody was called. Nobody was texted. That's a fact. In that morning, the only people that were texted was Dylan texted Maddie once and Dylan texted Kaylee once. Now, if they were using and Bethany wasn't even using the other apps. Like her phone just was non-existent for a period of time, from like 8:30, 8:45, 8:46, something like that, until I don't know, sometime 11 a.m. ish, 11:30 ish. I don't know about you guys, but can you guys just go to sleep when you're scared? I know I can't. Like I have to get to the point of like, okay, what I heard is all right, it's all good, you know. But that's why Ann Taylor was like, okay, Judge made the decisions that he made because there was no information. Okay, he had to go off of the information that you all provided to the grand jury, and that you guys didn't look any further because, hey, we can't rock our boat here. But if you actually go further and you look at these phones and you look at other people that is involved here with being friends of people, and then whoa, there's a different there's stuff that's off about it. Claiming that you just woke up and you can't get in touch with anybody and that you're scared, and so I immediately called so and so to come over. That's just not what happened that morning. The phones don't show that. And so at some point, if I'm Dylan or I'm Bethany, I'm deciding that I'm going to lie about that. Because if my phone is showing something different, right, than what I'm about to say to the police, then I'm knowing, I have prior knowledge that what I'm saying is not true. So I don't know. What's up, Heather? How you doing? Heather says, Ann found that the state didn't look through anyone's phone data out of all those phones. They extracted. That is why it would take her expert 3 years. Yeah, they didn't go through anybody's phones. If you look at the reports were Maori saying it, I'll look at these extractions, or I'll forensically go through it at my earliest convenience. And that's what he's writing on 11/30, 2022. I just think the argument's weak when you say, well, we know that Dylan isn't imagining things because, hello, everybody's dead. And it's like, no, that's gaslighting. We believe that Dylan is confused. Okay. Because I personally think that when she was called by Bethany, what would make sense to any rational human being is that if you called me and you said, I just heard a firework go off. Did you hear that? And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? I would get up out of my bed. Okay. And I would, on the second floor, and I would go waltzing around and seeing what the fuck you're talking about. Right. Right. That's what I would do. Or I'm going to tell you, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm in bed. I'm asleep. I'll talk to you in the morning. You know what I mean? And then that would be the end of it. Right. And so to me, it would have to be something that after she said this to me, then I hear the whole screaming and people going up and down. And at that point, it would have started. But to say that I'm hearing all this stuff beginning at 4, and I just did nothing in my room until Bethany calls me, and I call her back and tell her that I had seen a masked man. Okay. In the house. But Dylan says, I don't know if I told her that when we were on the phone. And same thing with Bethany. She says she doesn't know if she mentioned that, or if it was just like in the text, because she told Blaker that she didn't know how to respond to when she says there's somebody in here with a mask. And then then she says, you know what, don't think that it even happened until we were downstairs in the bedroom to then be saying that. And then it's like, you know, was Dylan like fabricating stuff because she like fabricates stories, and that's why Ethan's sister was like, what the fuck, tell Dylan to shut the fuck up. Remember? That's in the book. Again, James Patterson worked closely, I guess, with the Chapins. So why is Dylan crying and screaming? Tell her to shut the fuck up. That's just funny to me. What the fuck are you doing? Shut the fuck up. Someone tell her to shut the fuck up. I also know that all those people stay up. Okay. So if you go to that Visco, VSK or CO, if you go and look at all like people posting, you have Jenna McClure posting until like 5 o'clock in the morning. It comes out that Josie and Emily and all them, they were all up, just like hanging out, just, shooting the shit with roommates. It's just like, I find it so bizarre that Dylan nor Bethany would reach out to anybody else after, like, it's only 4:30. Like, I mean, people are up all the time. Why didn't they reach out? I know I want help then versus at noon when it's light outside. I can handle myself when it's light outside. I mean, it's not dark anymore. I don't know. It's like everything, you wake up and you're just like, okay, like everything's fine. Like I would not think there was anything wrong unless I walked upstairs and I saw all that shit and I would have been like, oh my God, what the fuck is going on? And I'm trying to understand everything. And so I'm back downstairs. I'm like, oh my God, what are we supposed to do? Oh my God, what are we going to do? Oh my God, what the fuck? And that's, I could then see that panic set in. I would love to have seen Victoria Gooch testify in this case. I think Victoria Gooch was like, oh my God, what the hell is going on here? Like, I'm literally writing a sentence, and then the next thing that I'm writing is contradicting the sentence that I just wrote. And she's been doing this for years, and she's a detective, and she's a female. And I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall after that interview concluded to hear what she would have said to Blaker. Like, pointing this out to him. Like, she's saying that there's nothing to be scared of. She didn't view the man with the mask to be a threat at all. Okay? But then you're going and doing things that are the opposite of that. Oh, Lisa 1111. Lana, this is your YouTube can't figure out why my member account isn't invisible. I know. And you're not blocked. Well, I'm glad that you created a new account. But girl, I don't know what was going on. We've been trying to get that for a minute. So I'm sorry, but I think Murphy not having any blood is a big part of the story. Hearing the dog barking and going crazy from 4 to 4:45, multiple people heard it. Multiple people heard that. I don't think the dog would have just started barking because, like, hey, I'm going to take you on a walk to go. I mean, did you guys see Murphy when Murphy was walking with the cops? Was Murphy barking? No. Murphy was being walked with cops. Okay, did you see? I mean, I would have been running over to Murphy and like loving little Murphs. Okay. Um, but Ann Taylor's like, who brought the dog in? Where was the dog? The dog, and then Hitler's like, the dog just walked back in the house because everything was open. Okay. And then just the dog went into Kaylee's room and just laid on the bed. Okay. Well, I don't know. I think if you had some dog people on the jury, they're going to have a problem with that, believing that. Okay. Um, and also, I think that, I mean, both the girls said, yeah, we heard Murphy barking. And it's just like, okay, when you got back down to the room at 4:27, Murphy didn't stop barking. Murphy didn't stop barking until almost 5. So how could you guys go to sleep hearing Murphy barking like that? You know what I'm saying? And then that's when I think like the time would be like, well, how long after you saw the masked man did Murphy stop barking? That's a question I would have asked. How much time had elapsed? Can you imagine one of the exhibits in this trial? I think would have been the episode that they were watching and pressing play and saying, is this the episode that you were watching? Can you imagine the jurors hearing, I'm here, it's okay, I'm here to help you, being played on can you imagine? Do you think Hitler would have allowed that? One of the exhibits is we're going to be playing. You think Hitler would have been like, I mean, they're going to say objection, relevance, you know, they're like relevance. The relevance is that these girls said that they were watching this show, right? And these girls said that it wasn't bad or violent, nothing. And this is what they would have been hearing. I mean, but think about it. Like, you're trying to introduce clips from Vampire Diaries. But I think it's relevant, right? If you're on the jury, if you heard that and you're like, whoa, wow, this is what the girl said they were watching. Okay. Then you bring up that Lily girl or the LM girl, whoever was there and then left. She was watching Vampire Diaries too, right? Hey, is this what you were watching? Okay. Yeah, that's what we were watching. Okay. What's her name? Dylan says, or Bethany says, one of them says the episode that we were watching, it was Dylan. She said that 2 people were trying to save one person. Okay. Like Victoria Gooch says it and when she's writing it up, like that's a person you can introduce it through. Well, Victoria, you've been a detective for a while. Did you even know what Vampire Diaries was? I'm just saying, if I was a detective and I didn't know what Vampire Diaries was, I better get really acquainted with it. Or, okay, what is this shit? What's Vampire Diaries? Go look at it. Look at a couple of these episodes. Oh, wait, she said she was watching what episode? Oh my God. Then I see what's on the episode and I'm just like, this has, oh, nothing to see here. There's not a single report of anybody going and saying they watched Vampire Diaries and said, we were actually really surprised at what we heard. It's the same thing that Dylan said she heard. Especially if you're going to say, hey, well, when you went to sleep, did you shut the TV off? No. Did you shut the TV off when you went to sleep? And then you have that LM who has pictures of Dylan already passed out on the couch, right? Looks like she's already falling asleep on the couch with her pink blanket and heart blanket, right? And so she's like, well, no, I don't remember shutting, just like I don't remember locking the door. Do you remember shutting off the television? and that's where you guys watched it out in the living room, right? So when you would have went to bed in your bed and that's still playing, okay, if I'm Anne, I want some dusting of the fingerprints to see who pressed power off button. Where's the remote for that television? I don't know. Maybe somebody else touched it, shut it off. Maybe the fucking killer was like, shut this shit off. My fucking ears. Boom. I don't know. Maybe the killer turned it on so that nobody could hear anything. How about that? Maybe the killer turns on the television, okay, and turns it up so loud that you couldn't hear shit. I can't believe we're talking about Vampire Diaries in a case. I have my ass of how much it's relevant to the case. Oh, it's incredible. I think it's relevant. I think it's relevant only because it's word for word what she said she heard. I just think I'm just curious on how you'd have to ask a lawyer how you could potentially get this in. Because I would think it's hearsay of what Dylan heard. You know? Good comment right there. I like this one. Nothing ever happens in Moscow, but yet read the news. I beg to differ. It's so true. That's fucking wild little area. Okay. What Dylan's hearing, think about it. If Dylan's able to testify to what she heard, okay, I think then this would be admissible. Dylan's testifying to what she heard. Okay. Now, did you hear that before or after Bethany called you? That's the clutch. I would love to know what her answer would be. Well, I don't know. I can't remember, or like I thought so, but then that doesn't make sense. You know. Well, all of your phone calls to your roommates started after you talked to Bethany. Okay, well, if they all started after that, then no, I would have heard the screaming after that. Because I started calling them because of what I heard. See how that will flow then? And they would just be trying to get a time. And it's like, and did the detectives ask you, when you were texting, did you text right after you had seen the person? You know, when you're walking out and you saw the person, is that then when you texted to say what you saw? You know? Because if they're going to let that stuff in, then it's 100% you're allowed to go after that. You know? If they're going to allow it. Because it beats the hearsay exception rule. So, okay, then you can go after that then. Since it's in. Because it's saying it's happening right then and there. And she says, okay, so you were calling out, right? Yes, I was calling out. I was screaming. I heard Kaylee screaming. And so I'm saying Kaylee, and I'm calling Kaylee's name out. And you texted her name, right? And you're like, Kaylee, what's going on, right? Yes. And you were calling her name out. And then you called her. And you did it for Xana, right? But you called Xana first before you called Kaylee. Do you know that? Why did you call Xana first? And I think she's going to say because Xana wasn't home yet. Because I heard it coming from Xana's room. Because I was calling her to say what's going on because I wanted to ask her what was going on with Kaylee because she was over there. I heard from her, like that part of the house. Like I would love to know why the call was to Xana first versus Kaylee, you know? I think that matters. Because I think the state is going to try to change, like to use that and say, well, you called Xana first, so could it be because you thought it was her? And then the way that I would combat that if I was on the defense is I would be saying, well, isn't it true that you didn't see Xana and Ethan come home that night? And so if if you were thinking that it was Xana, is it because you didn't know where Xana was? Because she wasn't home yet? But yet you saved a contact in your phone at 3:51, correct? Who was that? And so you were awake. You didn't do that while you were sleeping in your sleep. Did you do that while you were sleeping? Did you tell the police that you saved a contact in your phone at 3:51? In fact, you told the police that you were up all the way until you went to bed to try to go to sleep. You never told the police that you had woken up because of the noises, right? Correct. I never said that. No, I said that that everything was fine when we went to bed. When Kaylee and Maddie came home, when we went to bed, everything was fine, and it was after we went to bed. And when you say went to bed, like, what do you mean by that? And now, didn't you fall asleep on the couch while you were watching Vampire Diaries? Do you consider yourself going to sleep at that point, or what do you consider that? Did somebody wake you up? How did you wake up to then go to your room? When did that happen? And when you woke up, you told the police that that LM woman was gone. Okay, and were Maddie and Kaylee already in the house? You see how this would all go? Like, it's just like you're, and I just think you're going to get a lot of like, I don't know, I don't remember. I don't know, I don't remember. So then you have to go with, I just, they would have been, or maybe Dylan does remember, you know, because it's the words of the police, and it's like that's not how I said that, or I didn't say it like that, or what I meant by this was this. But I just cannot believe that we don't have one of the questions, which would be the most important question, which would be, okay, you're texting Bethany. Bethany's texting you. Is this happen like while everything's transpiring? Like you had just seen the masked man and then you had texted that? Like, don't you think you would ask that question? And then you said that you didn't hear the firework, right? Firecracker note. But that in the report that the police officer wrote, he says that you said that Bethany told the police that you did hear it. But you never told Bethany that, right? You told Bethany that you didn't hear it, right? In fact, you told that to Noonan's on the body cam when you first were interviewed right out the gate at noon. Yeah, I did not hear that. I never said that I heard that. You said that you saw a black truck, right? When you went down to Bethany's room, you saw a black truck. So you went down to her room, you locked the door, so you didn't get right in bed, right? And was this black, and you said this black truck was coming, or what you thought was a black truck, it was coming up from where like the Queen Road apartments are coming down, okay? And you couldn't tell if they had headlights on or not, but you could see the tail lights, or like it would be like brake lights because they were red. Okay. And so you were looking out the window. Mm-hmm. Yep, sure was. I remember looking out the window. Okay. And do you remember telling Emily Allant that you went down to Bethany's room because you heard the door close, the slider door close, that's when you went because you heard the door close? Do you recall that? Let's take a look at this. Officer Payne's report, November 13th. I interviewed Emily Lant, and she said that um, Emily stated that she and Hunter woke up around 1 and they stayed up watching TV till like 3, at which point they went back to sleep. Emily said she woke up at approximately 10:30. Emily said that Mortensen called her approximately 1:51 and said that, in quotes, last night around 4 a.m., she heard and saw a man, and she and Bethany were locked in their room sleeping. And added she wanted Emily to come over to check the house because she was too scared. Emily also said that Mortensen heard Kaylee scream and run up the stairs. A while later, Mortensen came out of her room and saw the man staring at her. Emily said the man didn't do anything to Mortensen. Mortensen said that she stayed locked in her room and heard the sliding door close. So she ran into Bethany's room. I asked Emily if she had asked Mortensen why she didn't call anyone that night. Emily stated that Mortensen told her it was because she was intoxicated and didn't want to believe what was going on. Mortensen also told Emily the man was wearing a mask and could only see his eyes and nose. Emily stated that Johnson went over to the house just before her. When Emily arrived, she stated that she went upstairs but was stopped by Johnson, who told Emily that she did not want to see it. Emily also told me that she saw a knife laying on the floor at the top of the stairs when she went inside. Emily described the knife as being a steak knife. It was later determined that Johnson had grabbed the knife when he entered the house. So again, going back to this, this is the interview that took place on 11/13. It was recorded, and it was that something I just find that's just off. Again, this is hearsay, I mean, in a way, but it's not. It would qualify. This is what. Okay, so Emily also said that Mortensen heard Kaylee scream and run up the stairs a while later. Now, again, that seems like it would be Payne's version, okay, because this is written up 1/10/2023. So a while later, like what's a while later? Like what the fuck is that? A while later, Mortensen came out of her room and saw the man staring at her. Well, Emily stated that the man didn't do anything to Dylan. Dylan said she stayed locked in her room and heard the slide door close. That's what prompted her to then go. Once she heard the sliding door close, she then ran into Bethany's room. And now that is just very interesting because the sliding door was open. And if the slider, though, was closed, right, then how did Murphy get back inside? Right? Like Hitler says, Murphy just waltzed back in. Ugh. Also, They only want to talk about this phone call at 11:51. There was text messages at 10:30, according to Emily, because Dylan brings it up in her interview where she says that she thinks Emily's mistaken. I didn't text her at 10:30. I said I don't know. But again, these people would just be asked these questions, and it's just like, did you tell the police this? And now Hunter said, again, this is Blaker at 2:19 p.m. I conducted an interview with Hunter, and Hunter is a student, okay, and he said that oh wait, this is the one that's Hunter Chapin. Hold on, that's not the one I wanted. Okay, this is from Dustin Blaker. Okay. And this is Josie. And what's really interesting about this is Dustin Blaker is questioning her at the police station. And in this whole, like, ridiculousness, there was nothing about, this person was not able to tell me anything else related to the case. If you read this, there is nothing about that morning. Dustin Blaker interviewed Ava. Ava saw and heard all the emergency lights and sirens and looked out and saw some of her friends standing outside with white blankets around them. Ava went out and brought more blankets to the people outside to try and help. Ava told me a few weeks ago on October 14th at around 1 p.m. or 1 a.m. rather, she heard what she thought was a male walking up her door and trying to open up the door. This is who I believe Ann Taylor sent a subpoena to, this person. On November 14th at around KF. She was interviewed on 11/14, and this person told Blaker that she had contact with Bethany and Dylan on 11/12/2022. Dylan arrived at her residence at 10:30, and Bethany arrived at her residence around 11:30. This person lives at blank, 700 block of Taylor. Bethany and Dylan were at her residence for 2 to 3 hours. this girl said that she walked them past the whites. Okay, so that would be like the tree house. And I realized that I was like, okay, they were at the tree house. Okay. And I was able to put this girl living at the tree house. And so she walked them past the whites sometime before 2 hours, but she could not positively tell me. Blank said that she stayed on Taylor and then turned around and she was not sure what route they took. And I think what Ann Taylor was getting at was um, there was 4 people, I believe, that she said. There were 3 or 4 other females with Bethany and Dylan. And if she's walking them past the whites at 2, then how is anybody at that house at like 1 or 1:30? Or is this girl just like not know what she's talking about? Um, and her just total time is all off. But she said she thought she wanted to know about this LM girl. Because I think what they were trying to figure out was if that house was just open for anybody to go, did this girl get there prior to the other people actually arriving? You know, it was just like she's trying to figure shit out. And just here's Payne just lying. Okay, I can't believe this. Payne is saying that he did not see. He's like, I, on November 24th, collected this black polar penguin glove from the parking lot. I conducted subsequent investigation by watching the body-worn camera of Officer Noonan's, the first MPD officer on scene, and looking over the scene photos taken by ISP forensic team. None of these sources showed the glove was present upon officers' initial response to the scene or during the processing of the scene on November 13th. It is unclear where the glove came from at the time of this writing. I want to know whose fucking blood is on that glove. Because even if an officer, first responder, had it on and then took it off, okay, the blood that they would have touched to like check for a pulse or whatever, the blood on that glove is a single source male, and it's not Brian Koberger's. Wild. Anyways, just chugging along here in this marathon. Hope you guys are having a great Labor Day. Choo choo. Lana, I'm new to following your deep dives. What are some of the most lingering issues for you in this investigation? The undercover cars lying about what they were doing the night before. Stone, Josie's on a vacation so far away. The timeline, everything to do with the timeline. And that there was no urgency to get into people's phones and to see this timeline. Oh, what's up, the Spitfire Dragon? I'm late, but so excited I finally caught alive. Good to see you. Good to see you in here. You're a good cat. You're a good cat. K, $4.99. Whoop, whoop. The Outfield. Yes, that's the band. Ginger, it's really nice to spend your Labor Day. Yeah, I've got to give it up for all the hardworking laborers out there, all those stay-at-home Mom's working hard. How's Murky doing? How's Murky feeling? It's almost like Payne is trying to discredit the bloody glove by saying it wasn't there. Yeah. And we see it. And we see it. It's actually in that body cam. That's really like just in that body cam. I think after you read all these reports by both sides, you can definitely see that the FBI was running this brigade. The FBI was calling the shots. No doubt about it. We don't even know that answer. I know when I started seeing Josie's on a vacation far away, it just stays in my head all day. We don't even know that answer. FBI all day is in charge. Murky is great. I'm stuffed with some ducks. Ooh. Oh, okay. All day, every day. What's up, Sarah? How you doing? Again, if you guys are watching, there is a live chat feature. So when I'm pulling up and I'm saying somebody's comment, that's where it's coming from. Do you guys remember when Alec Murdaugh went on trial and he was talking about his drug use habit and how much he used per day? Something like that. Remember, it was just like astronomical. But what got me thinking about even that case is, you know, what they were able to do in that case. About, we really kind of saw it for the first time, I think, in a trial where, dude, the phone's like, you know, horizontal, now it's vertical, then you're doing this, then you're doing that. And then we even saw more come out in the Karen Reed case about like this pocket state. Okay. And then but ask yourself something, like the way that the prosecution attempted to make John O'Keefe's phone, and then it was like, boom, just it stopped, and it was right where he got, you know, hit, and it never moved again. Look at the pocket state. It doesn't come out until 6:07, 6:10 in the morning. You can manipulate data if you only explain it certain ways to make it seem like certain things. And I just really, really wanted to see in this trial how they were going to showcase this data. Like, when are these phones moving? When do these phones stop moving? You know, for example, if somebody's saying that they're sleeping from, I don't know, I went back to bed and didn't wake up until 11. So from 8 a.m. until 11 a.m. and there's like, let's say 1,000 steps on the phone between that time frame. Okay. I think that you can say that that person is not sleeping, correct? Or somebody else would have had to have that phone, correct? So same thing goes for me with, like, I would expect if Maddie had her phone on her, right? And she's taking a bunch of steps because she's looking for Murphy that night, I would expect a lot of steps to be on her phone beginning at, I don't know, 2:15 until 2:53 when that phone call goes out to Bethany. And then I just want to see how many steps are taken after the 2:53 call, if there's any steps taken on the phone, with the phone. Because Maddie's phone was on the like the nightstand next to her bed. And then I know that in the line of questioning that came out, the officers and the detectives asked Bethany and Dylan if they had the pass codes to their phones, to any of the roommates' phones, if they knew their passcodes, and they said no, they didn't know them. How many people out there have roommates? How many people out there have husbands or wives? I'm just curious, like, were they asking that because there was activity after the fact? You know, are they asking it because, like, hey, we're trying to get into these phones. You could really help us if you know them, you know? I'm curious of what the question was for. So here's Blaker reporting, and this is where I think Ann Taylor was like, you definitely have to have some communications with them in text. So I want to point this out, which is this is a report done on 111, but it was for something he did on January 6th, which is Blaker around 7 in the morning. He retrieved evidence from the MPD evidence tech, Tim. He signed for those items and transported them to Idaho State Police Forensic Lab. And it says, refer to evidence tech Tim records for what specific items were transported. Like, this doesn't scream lazy. I just don't know what does. Hey, if you want to know what I took, just go look at Tim's shit. Okay, I'll get right on that. You know, everybody else's reports except for Blaker like is stating what they're taking. Go check on with, you know, what's his face, Tim. And anyways, on this date, he transports items to the MPD or from MPD to ISP. Okay. While he's there, he's given them several items. The lab had tested and were able to be returned. So it was like, it was a swap there. Okay. So he's bringing them stuff and he's getting stuff. Okay. He said, I signed for all the items and completed the chain of custody paperwork to the on the bags. Okay, great. But doesn't write any of that in his report here. Prior to coming back, though, to Moscow, because this is out in Boise, he sought that Dylan Mortensen's residence in Boise to retrieve the personal items which had been released to her, which was earlier in the week by accident. I packed these belongings into my vehicle and I returned to Moscow, Idaho. Okay. Once back in Moscow, I booked all the evidence from the state lab back into the property. I left Dylan's personal items locked in the vehicle I was driving. And on 1/9/2023, so 3 days later, I locked them in this fucking vehicle, dude. And then I left Dylan's personal items locked in this vehicle that I was driving. And on 1/9/2023, I transported these items to the city shop and I placed them in a secure garage. One item of note is as the items were being loaded into the vehicle, I was driving a Ford Fusion. We were able to get everything into the vehicle except you were driving the Ford Fusion. Oh my God. So in case there's any DNA in this car, it's because of these items. This is the Ford Fusion. This is the undercover's car. This is why is everybody using this only vehicle for everything in this case. I can't. I don't understand what's going on. So please help me understand this. So one item of note is as the items were being loaded into the vehicle I was driving, a Ford Fusion, by the way, we were able to get everything into the vehicle except a small table. We attempted several times to get the table into the vehicle, but it was not going to fit. Where is this? Blank blank stated they did not care if the table was returned. So she had her husband break the table and place it in the vehicle. What? What is going? Why didn't they just get an SUV out there? Why didn't they get some? You guys have like U-Haul. We just broke it. You know, Dylan was like, I don't care if I ever see that again. Okay. I'm so confused though, okay? So is he saying that when he went to Dylan's to get these items, one of these items could not fit unless we broke it? I mean, isn't like unscrewing something? I just don't even know. So on 1/10/2023, I told Ann Taylor, defense counsel for the suspect, about why and who broke the table. So you didn't ask Ann Taylor about that first? To say, like, maybe she'd be like, okay, well, there's another way to do this. Go and get a different vehicle to go pick it up. Again, this is how Blicker handles things. A trip to Boise with evidence and retrieval of property. Okay. Again. On January 6, 2023, at around 7 in the morning, I retrieved evidence from MPD, from Tim. I signed for the items and I transported them to the Idaho State Police Forensic Lab. I took the plainclothes Fusion mobile with me. Okay? That's what I drove. He doesn't say that in the beginning, though, here. He waits. So refer, and I'm not going to tell you what evidence I took there and what evidence I came back with. You just need to refer to evidence tech Tim, okay, and his records for what specific items were transported. Who has time for this, okay? Once I arrived in Meridian, Boise, I transferred the items from the MPD to ISP intake receptionist. All items were signed for chain of custody. I was then given several items the lab had tested and were able to be returned to MPD for storage. I signed for all of those items and completed the chain of custody paperwork on the bags. Prior to coming back to Moscow, I texted Dylan and told her that I would bring my whip through and pick up and retrieve these personal items, which had been accidentally released to her, okay? It was earlier in the week. It was by accident, y'all. It's not a big deal. I packed these belongings into my vehicle and I returned to Moscow. Like, everything was fine. Like, he doesn't want to write where this occurred at. He's like, I just packed it all in. Once back in Moscow, I booked all the evidence from the state lab back into properties. What we do, people. I left Dylan's personal items locked in the vehicle I was driving. And on 1/9/2023, I transported these items to the city shop and I placed them in a secure garage. Yes, they stayed in my Ford Fusion, just locked, okay, for 3 days. A whip is a vehicle, okay. So here, this vehicle from 1/6 to 1/9 was parked where, who knows, just chilling, but it was definitely locked. And then I need to tell you guys, though, one item of note is, as the items were being loaded into the vehicle I was driving, which was a Ford Fusion, we were able to get everything into the vehicle except a table. And it was just a small table, but it was a table. And we attempted several times to get this table into the vehicle, but it was not going to fit. Like, it was just not going to fit. So Dylan stated that she did not care if the table was ever returned to her. So she had her husband, as I think it says Dylan's mom stated, So she had her husband break the table and place it in the vehicle. So not even Detective Blaker did it. We allowed Dylan's stepdad, it looks like, to do this. Who knows? But I want to tell everybody, says Blaker, that on 1/10/2023, I told Ann Taylor, defense counsel for Brian Culver, about this incident and why and who broke the table. What? So, did Dylan's nothing to see here? Okay. So, that's special. Why didn't they ask Ann Taylor about before they broke it? Because they got these things because Ann Taylor was like requesting these items. And there's two of the items that actually had blood on them. The blanket and the jacket that were in Dylan's room. But she wanted this table. Again, it was in Dylan's room. And these lists of these items, which they're not clearly listed out for us to see because Blaker said go fetch. And then he called up Ann Taylor and said, hey, we got your items, but just so you know, the table's broke, and this is who broke it, and this is why they broke it. Okay? We'll talk to you later. Bye, Ann. Okay. Like, what? I don't think I've ever read a report like that in my life. Why is everybody driving around that Ford Fusion? Everybody gets a turn. Yeah, that hoe. That Ford Fusion is nothing but a hoe. Everybody gets a turn with the Ford Fusion. I was driving the Ford Fusion. Then I just left all the items in the car for 3 days. Because I wasn't going to drive it over to that shithole garage that we're storing stuff at. I'm going to go when I have time. And I had time on the 9th. So all that stuff stayed in the car for 3 days. Then I drove it over there on the 9th, took it all out, put it in that garage. Is that the same garage for... Yeah, I don't know. That's just the garage it was in. But then I called Ann Taylor and told her about it on the 10th. That, hey, Dylan's stepdaddy broke that shit. Not us. And this is why. It wouldn't fit in my Fusion. You know that undercover cop car that looks tan? That one. So if there's DNA all over that Fusion, it's because of that table, y'all. Come on now. Anyways, we'll end this marathon right there. Is that right? What would you have done if you were a lawyer and you heard this story? I would have been like, you did what? You broke the table. Yeah, it wouldn't fit in my Fusion. And what the fuck? What don't you get? Yeah, but I got your shit here. What? You broke? No, I didn't break the table, Ann. Dylan's stepdaddy broke the table. What? Yeah, they were fine with it being broken because they didn't want it anymore. So they said, bust that shit up and take it out of here. That's what we did, Ann. You got any questions? You call up Chief Fry. Better yet, call the FBI because you can't get shit out of them, so deal with it. Blaker says nothing further. Ann Taylor's like, what in the world is going on around here? Can you imagine? Like, dude, Dylan's family gets pulled into this shit, and Dylan's family's like, we didn't ask for this. We didn't know. Like, what? Like, why are you bringing us into this? Do you think that Dylan's stepdad was like, why the hell am I breaking this? And we just broke the legs off. Chill. And all you want to do is get killers off. So fuck you, Ann. Chill. You're going to get your little evidence here. You think Ann... Do you think Ann was like... This is like literally 11 days into her being on the case. And pipe it, girl. We got your fucking evidence, okay? Calm down, girl. Wait, this report I'm reading, it says that this shit was just chilling in the car for 3 days, unattended. Yeah, but it was locked and nothing to see here. Don't worry about it. You knew that you were going there to pick up evidence and you knew what it consisted of and you took a Ford Fusion? Don't you guys have like, I don't know, SUVs? Come on, Ann. What's your problem, girl? Well, you would have known what you were going to pick up, right? Is that right? And so you chose to take the Ford Fusion, knowing that you needed to bring back a table? How dense are you? I don't know what you're talking about, Anne. You know we got your man by the nuts. All you care about is this damn table. Yep, ask me that on the stand. I have no problem, girl. Can you imagine their conversation? Not like any of that transpired, but if you were to really have like a SmackDown session. And then Ann Taylor has to relay this to Mathis, and she's like probably like, Ann, what did they I'm calling him myself. I would speak with Detective Blaker. Hi, yeah, this is Elisa. And I represent Brian Colberger. That's right. What's this I hear you were breaking tables and just shoving them in a Ford Fusion? Focus. What were you driving? Did you take any pictures of this? Were you wearing a body camera? No, girl. Who's this? Shh. Girl, you know I leaked all this shit to Dateline, right? Oh, girl, Dateline already knows about this. They've been known. Wait, let me get this straight. You went to Boise in a Ford Fusion. Is that the same one that those undercovers were driving? That's right. Now I gotta go. Dateline's calling. Okay. All right, you guys. Until next time, can you believe it? Can you believe it? Go check it out for yourselves. It is report number. Oh, where is it? Yep, there it is. It's report number 116. 116. There you go. Report 116. Go get it. Go fetch. Dustin Blaker. He took a desk and let Dylan's stepdad, just bust it. All right. And then it's okay because we have it. We got it. It's all stored. There you go. Get a nice picture of it. All right. Dustin Blaker says nothing to see here. And don't worry, I'll call Ann Taylor up and let her know this is who did it and this is why we did it. But you can have the table for the rest of the duration of this trial because Dylan said she does not want it back. Okay. Can you believe this shit? And then of all cars, the Ford Fusion. Until next time, guys, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Have a great rest of your Labor Day. You guys are all gems. Do me a favor. You're going to have an opinion on the video. If you watch us on replay, use the comment section. Let us know what you think and give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Make yourself known.